Hey, good morning. Once again from Dallas on this Tuesday morning, October 7th, 2025. And, we're not on the air across the radio network yet. So I guess just for you, the lovely online audience, can I get away with saying happy birthday to mom? Happy 80. Yeah, she'd really love to have me saying that on the radio. But, for you and I, we can do that. Big birthday for her. So happy birthday, Mom. Anyway, back down here in Dallas, visiting daughters and grandkids, and everything's going great, especially when the Brewers are helping with getting to bed at a decent hour. We'll thank Jackson Churio officially for that and have an update on the game with the Cubs coming up in just a little bit. We'll also be talking about some of the latest Republican attacks on election rights in Wisconsin. Again, somehow have a tough time believing that that is still a thing, but going after absentee ballot drop boxes, Ron Johnson squealing about being investigated for his role in trying to undermine the 2020 election. So we'll have stories about that. We'll talk to Hans Breitenmoser about Trump's trade war and potential bailouts coming to farmers and how much that'll cost all American taxpayers. Sheila Everhart will be here talking about the apple harvest and all the many varieties that are grown here. And we'll talk to Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom in Washington, D.C. about the shutdown. And Dan Shafer will join us from the Recombobulation area with an update on Wisconsin politics. So all that and more about to get started at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. And here, we'll see you in a little bit.
Down on misusing artificial intelligence. Wisconsin Act 34 is a bipartisan measure that targets the use of AI to create or share explicit photos of someone without their consent, specifically photos that aren't even real. They can be used as a form of revenge porn, which the state already has laws against. Adding AI to the statute specifically adds new protections as more and more deepfakes show up online. It used to be really easy to tell when somebody's face was edited into a photo, but that's only gotten harder. The law specifically defines synthetic intimate representation and prohibits posting AI with the intent to harass or intimidate someone. Supporters say it's about protecting privacy in a digital world. Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers are again focusing on free speech on college campuses. They're proposing a bill that would punish universities if they violate free speech rights. Schools could face lawsuits, tuition freezes, and would even have to note violations on admissions documents. The plan also calls for First Amendment training and surveys about political bias every 2 years. Similar bills are being considered in 19 states. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers win again. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball, it was the bottom of the first. The Brewers already losing to the Cubs 3-0 when Andrew Vaughn came to the plate. 2 men on, coverage on TBS.
And it's a high fly ball to left field. Happ underneath it, in front of the wall. This ball's gone! Andrew Vaughn ties the game with one swing. He's done it again.
The Brewers went on to win 7-3. Vaughn on what led to his 3-run home run.
William gets a huge hit. Yellow gets a huge hit. I was just trying to keep the momentum going, have a team at bat there. Definitely a big moment. The momentum swing, that was huge.
Game 3 is tomorrow afternoon at 4:08 at Wrigley Field. NBA, the Bucks with a 103-93 win over the Heat in Miami. But guard Cole Anthony had to leave the game after getting stitches in his chin.
Yeah, he's good. It was a deep cut, but he's good. I told him when you play defense, this stuff happens.
That's Bucks head coach Doc Rivers. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Finally, a stretch of some crisp fall weather for today. Increasing sunshine with highs in the mid-60s. Tonight, clear and chilly, lows in the mid to upper 30s. On Wednesday, some frost possible early, otherwise sunny skies with highs in the lower 60s. Right now, 53 degrees.
Hey, Gordy, I gotta admit, these hearing aids from Madison Hearing Aid Center changed my life.
Mine too, John. I thought I needed subtitles to talk to my grandkids.
And these aren't those old giant clunkers we saw in the old days. It's got Bluetooth, it's rechargeable, the works.
Yeah, my phone connects straight to my ears. I'm basically a cyborg now.
Hey, you just figured out texting last year, too.
Yeah, baby steps. But I did call Madison Hearing Aid Center, and you should too. 608-249-4077.
608-249-4077. Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
Nobody had to tell your grandparents not to drive while using their typewriters. Why should it be any different for us kids and our cell phones? Distracted driving was the cause of more than 3,000 deaths in 2022. Come on, we're smarter than this. Let's put down the phones and focus on the roads. Drive safe, everybody.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News.
Yep.
Now, live from Dallas, he's not wearing a cowboy hat, though I'm a little upset about that. Here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Going to take care of that later on with a visit to the stockyards in Fort Worth here. Hey, good morning, Wisconsin, 6:06 on this Tuesday morning, October 7th. It is another beautiful morning up north. At least I'm taking it on faith that it is a little cooler than when I left. But again, on the road in Texas this week. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you're spending your mornings, listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, or listening or watching us on all the other various platforms out there. I've got a question for you. Are you as grateful to Jackson Churio as I am for allowing me to go to bed at a decent hour last night? Because that home run, putting the Brewers up 7-3 over the Cubs, said that Parker and I could get a decent night's sleep tonight and not have to stay up for the whole thing, right, Parker? Right, Parker? You didn't stay up for the whole game, did you, Parker?
Certainly not. Why would a person do that?
because it was a fun game to watch, wasn't it?
It was a very fun game. It was a very happy game. I love beating Craig Counsell.
It is so good. Tony right away on YouTube. Hey there, hi there, ho there. How about them Brewers? I'm glad that we've given Tony one team to cheer for now. Nothing against Cleveland, but he's with us full time now on the bandwagon, and that's a beautiful thing. It was a lot of fun to watch. But again, not in the very beginning, because that seems to be our move now. It's become the obligatory spotting of the Cubs a lead in the top of the first. And frankly, I got to give credit to Sherry. She nails this. She said it on Saturday and again last night. She's like, that's how we play our best, it seems, is when we're chasing something. You have to chase a lead down. And we certainly did it, bigly on Saturday. And we sure did it again this time. Like how I put we in there? We did this. So, the Cubs jump off to a 3-run lead in the opening frame. Aaron Ashby was the opener and gave up that 3-run homer. And, it was a bullpen game because Brandon Woodruff is out with an injury. But after that 3-run homer, you turn things over to Nick Mears, Jacob Mizorowski, Chad Patrick, Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill, and Abner Uribe. They combined for 7 1/3 innings of shutout ball, in which they allowed 1 hit. 1. It was just a stellar job.
I think 3 total base runners, and all of that came from Miz, I'm pretty sure.
And Mizorowski, I mean, again, there was some drama there. He came on in the third. He threw 3 scoreless innings to earn the win. He hit at least 100 miles an hour on 31 of his 57 pitches. And each of his first 8 pitches went at least 102.6 miles an hour and topped out at 104.3. I mean, we're all sitting there in the living room watching this, and we're like, that was 102. That was 103. That was 104. It was back down to 102 again. He ended the third inning with an unassisted put out of a ground ball, which at first kind of looked like he was showboating, but then he confirmed after the game what we all suspected. He wasn't hitting the strike zone every time, obviously. And he was a little paranoid of overthrowing Andrew Vaughn over there at first base. And so he decided to run to the base himself, which
as he should have.
if I were in his large shoes, I probably would do as well, because I think we've just gotten used to the notion that he throws this heat, but he's still, I mean, he's just like in the movie Major League, he can't always control where that heat's going to go.
No, his command can get a little wild. They keep talking about how his problem is he falls off the mound towards the first base side.
Yeah, I heard that.
The
Yeah.
issue the whole time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just am baffled that we know exactly what the issue is, and you can literally see the issue, and it hasn't quite been solved. But last night he was pretty good. He had his command in control.
He enough to get, again, 3 scoreless innings, which, look, if he were doing that as a starter, we'd be like, why is he only going 3 innings again as a starter? That's why I think we've probably found where he will perform best for now.
Maybe. I don't know about. We'll get there when we get there. I don't know if I would want him out of the bullpen next year. I don't think he's quite what I envision a long relief guy being.
Oh, he's nothing like what you envision long relief, but he's getting it done right now, like he said. For what we need in front of us, that's okay. And now, again, all that praise to the bullpen. Let's take nothing away from the bats. I mean, Andrew Vaughn tying things up with a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first inning. Was
finally getting another home run. It had been like a month or so.
And I never thought that thing was going over the fence because he hit it a mile high.
It was,
and yet it went out. And then again, as I mentioned, Jackson Churio hitting his own 3-run homer, which kind of sealed the deal for me. But there was also a William Contreras solo shot. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe all 7 runs came on home runs. Yes, that makes sense. That checks out. Compared to game 1 where the Brewers scored 9 runs and none of them were on home runs. So you never know what you're going to get from this team, which is now just 1 win away from a trip to the National League Championship Series. So up 2 games to none. It is a best 3 of 5. They're off today as they move the series to Wrigley Field. And so game 3 will be held tomorrow afternoon. Pre-game coverage will begin at 3:30 on some stations across the Civic Media Radio Network, with the first pitch just a little bit after 4 o'clock. Again, catch it on the radio. If you've got to catch it on TBS, that's fine. But I don't know the announcers, and I miss Brian Anderson. I don't want this generic network talk, Ron Darling, giving you the equivalent of, yep, he really does have to throw the ball fast to, make the batter strike out. Really, Ron? Okay. Thanks for that amazing insight. It sounded a lot like that last night. A little frustrating.
That's why they call you the league's best color man, right?
Right. So if you are in a position to sync up your radio and TV, listen to the local announcers if you can. Look, I mean, we thought, we were kind of thinking this might be rather disastrous when Brandon Woodruff went down. I'm not going to lie. That's certainly what I was thinking. Like, oh, well, thanks for playing, guys. Maybe next year, but far, so good.
So far, so good. I wasn't quite there because there are so many good starting pitchers. Frankly, I'm still not happy with how we approached the game pitching wise last night. I don't entirely understand why we went with a bullpen game instead of putting out Priester or Patrick or Quintana. Yeah. But I mean, I think pretty much everybody's available tomorrow. So I can't really argue with this.
No. Once you've seen the results, you go, oh, hey, in hindsight, that was genius. But I wondered the same thing too. Like, well, why wouldn't you just bump your other starters up? But I suppose whatever it is, so many days rest or the matchup with the Cubs. But speaking of the Cubs, those cutaways to Craig Counsell, and again, Craig Counsell still has many friends and fans in the Milwaukee area. I get that, hometown kid, blah 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 blah. The boos that rained down upon him during his mound visits were, how do I put this, delicious. I mean, just so good.
It was the loudest I think it's ever been booing him, which made my day.
And you know what? If as he's walking out there, he's going, well, the paycheck's still cash. And good on him, because that's why he did. He's the highest paid manager, or I don't know if he still is, but he certainly was at the time. So again, that's his decision to do that, and it's our decision to let him know what we think about it. But it was a good crowd, obviously, with the playoffs, but kind of wondered with a late start, whether the crowd would really be into it. And I realize not everybody goes to bed as early as Grandpa over here, but still, an 8 o'clock start is something relatively rare here in the Midwest. So
Yeah, it is. That was very late.
yeah, and tomorrow at Wrigley Field, well, I mean that's going to be a different matter. You certainly did hear Cubs fans, especially in the top of the first last night. So I
The
mean
one time
they were there, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be, where I mean it used to be that American Family Field, Miller Park before that, I mean really did sound like Wrigleyville North, and you didn't have nearly as many Cubs fans down at Wrigley. But this year definitely felt different. It definitely feels like more Brewers fans will make the trek down to the north side of Chicago and cheer for the Brewers at Wrigley. And I expect a fair share of them will be there tomorrow afternoon as well.
Yeah, I would think so. I think I read that yesterday coming into the game, the beat writers were saying if the game one was like a 70-30 split, this is like an 80-20 split. If
Mhm.
that, like Brewers really showed up. But yeah, I get the feeling that the Brewers will travel down to Wrigley pretty well. They usually do fairly well, I think. And now you really got something on the line. So
Oh yeah, I mean a chance to move on to the National League Championship Series without a doubt. So a lot to watch for there, of course. So we'll have more to say about the Brewers Game 2 victory coming up throughout the morning, throughout the day here across the Civic Media Radio Network, and then coming up across the program today. Well, it's Tuesday. That means we'll have what I guess you could call our capital to capital block, where we start in the nation's capital and talk to Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom. He'll join us live to talk about the shutdown and what is he seeing as he, works across Capitol Hill. Remember last week before the shutdown, we talked to him, and he was in a relatively empty building there for the House of Representatives. Republicans showing no sense of urgency in preventing the shutdown. We'll see how things are looking right now. Both sides appear to be dug in. Both sides appear to be, well, I should say the Trump administration and congressional Republicans seem to be dug in on inflicting a maximum amount of pain. That includes Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy talking about upcoming delays in air travel being likely. You'd think he'd want to avoid that, since it was delays in air travel that led Trump to blink the last time that he shut down the government. There's also talk about preparing a big bailout for farmers, because of course you've also got, on top of the government shutdown, a trade war that the president started. Last time around, it cost American taxpayers about $20 billion to protect farmers from Trump's tariffs. This time around, Republicans are talking about maybe a $50 billion bailout. Just weren't these the guys that didn't like driving up the national debt? But apparently that's what they are willing to do at this point. So we'll talk to Hans Breitenmoser, a dairy farmer from up in Lincoln County, about that. He'll be joined by Sheila Everhart of the Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association on some much happier news about agriculture, a sliver of the agricultural industry in Wisconsin, and that would be apples. The apple harvest is in, looking good. There's so many different varieties, and Sheila's going to talk to us all about the things that you can do with Wisconsin apples, all the right varieties for the right dishes. Oh, let me back up a step. I got to talking about the shutdown. Yes, we'll talk to Cam Stevenson in the nation's capital. What's new at the state capitol? We'll talk to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area, all about that as he follows Wisconsin political news for us. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the latest Republican attacks on free and fair elections. And Ron Johnson shocked that he was investigated for his role in potentially overturning the 2020 presidential election. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be back in a bit.
Furlough Mattress of Madison. Save on adjustable bases, now 30 to 50% off. Prepare for a sleep sanctuary like no other with their amazing accessory offers. Furlough Mattress of Madison.
Is your computer so slow you can hardly use it? Does it have blue screens, malware, viruses, reboots, hardware crashes? Sound familiar? Computers will have problems, and when they do, you need the computer experts at Madison Computer Works. Every day, we help home users and businesses keep their computers and networks running smoothly. For solutions to your computer problems, call the pros at 231-8000, and we'll turn this into this. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my two sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866.
Hi, it's me, Flo, here to tell you that with the Progressive Home and Auto Bundle, you get 24/7 protection, so you're covered no matter where the day takes you.
Even I added too much water to the pizza dough day?
Yep.
How about getting a call from my daughter to pick her up at the airport?
Welcome back. It is a little chilly up north on this Tuesday morning, October 7th. Ooh, October 7th, before I forget. Happy birthday, Mom. There we go. Won't be in the doghouse today. It is 32 degrees right now in Hayward, in Manitowish Waters, and in Tomahawk. It's 45 in the Chippewa Valley, 48 in La Crosse, 43 in Wisconsin Rapids, and the warm spot across Wisconsin, basically the entire southeast corner, is hovering around 55 degrees right now. Tomorrow on the program, while I'm here in Texas, I'm going to be talking to a member of a group that fights for fair funding for public schools, threatened by the explosive growth of taxpayer-funded vouchers for private schools. It's a big growing problem in Wisconsin. It's a much bigger problem here in Texas, where I guess everything is supposedly bigger, including the crisis facing public schools. And so we'll talk to a member of a national education group about what lessons from Texas can we take to Wisconsin. Also, tomorrow we'll talk to Chuck Collins from Patriotic Millionaires and his new book about how concentrated wealth and power are ruining lives and the planet. But let's take a couple of minutes here to talk about the latest attacks on free elections in the United States, because despite still no evidence of widespread election fraud and a constant stream of legal rulings that affirm voting rights, far-right extremists are not giving up trying to make voting more difficult in Wisconsin. I got 3 examples for you. There's the Waukesha County judge, yes, Waukesha County, who just ordered the Wisconsin Elections Commission to check the citizenship status of millions of people on the voter registration rolls. A massive undertaking with no clear method, much less any evidence of its necessity. The State Department of Justice is asking the judge to put the order on hold for the moment to figure out what it would mean and how to go about verifying the citizenship of 3.6 million registered Wisconsin voters before the next election in February, as ordered by Waukesha County Judge Michael Maxwell. Now, such a move, according to State Attorney General Josh Kaul, would require a massive overhaul of the state's voter registration system and create new verification requirements that are not otherwise provided for in state law. And further, the judge doesn't explain what it would entail to verify that an applicant to register to vote is a U.S. citizen. For example, do you check someone against a driver's license database? Well, what if they don't drive? None of this is spelled out because none of it is necessary. There's no mechanism for this because it's a solution in search of a problem. It is a so thinly veiled effort to engage in racial profiling of American voters who don't look like, say, typical voters in Waukesha County. Frankly, it's sick. And we'll see how this goes during what will certainly be an appeals process. Example number 2, there are some Republican legislators once again circulating a bill that would again ban absentee ballot drop boxes, which again have shown no security concerns. The 8 Republicans behind the bill are using language similar to President Trump in their co-sponsorship memo, saying that Wisconsin voters deserve to have trust in the mechanisms and processes that our state employs in conducting its elections. Yeah, and we have that now. We've had that with ballot drop boxes that had been supported by Republicans as well as Democrats in the past, until Donald Trump tried to overturn his 2020 election loss and blamed drop boxes and mail-in voting despite no evidence. In fact, the closest thing we have to an issue with a drop box in Wisconsin is from a drop box opponent, the mayor of Wausau, who you'll recall removed a box outside of City Hall that was not yet in use for the 2024 presidential election. And then third, we have Senator Ron Johnson, and a story coming out yesterday as he cries out about being investigated for his contributions that were intended to undermine the 2020 election results. Now, according to a story in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Republican senators said yesterday that they had discovered that Ron Johnson and 6 other senators' phone data was obtained by the FBI as special counsel Jack Smith investigated the efforts to overturn the election. Johnson and the others expressed shock, I tell you, with Johnson saying, "We were surveilled simply for being Republicans." No, you weren't. You were rightly investigated for helping the guy who lost the election try to undermine or even overturn its results. You can't hide what the record shows, and the record shows that you would have been, Ron Johnson, moments away from being a mule, delivering fraudulent ballots from fake electors, if only Vice President Mike Pence had gone along with the plot. And just a couple of weeks prior to that, you, Senator Johnson, were holding hearings so that all manner of conspiracy theorists could trot out claims, all without evidence. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly what Trump and his cronies were doing. And now you have the audacity to feign outrage. Well, let's be clear about something. It will never not enrage me that we had the pieces in place to hold accountable the people who tried to overturn an election, basically stage a coup. And for various reasons, they got away with it. And they got back in power. And they're still getting away with activities that undermine American democracy. It just leads you to wonder, what does it say about a party that is so afraid of election outcomes that it will stop at nothing to put up roadblocks to voting? It should be the thing that anybody engaged in public service wants to encourage, especially when you have a system that already has the guardrails in place for elections to be secure and safe for every qualified voter. But there are too many people in our political system today who don't want every qualified voter to vote, just the ones that they choose. On the way, we are going to have today's history lesson, including John Cougar, or John Mellencamp, or John Cougar, whatever he's going by. It's his birthday today. That and more in today's history lesson coming up next. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
students, government, lakes, and 92.7 WMDX.
Wisconsin lawmakers frustrated at proposed fee increases coming from the Department of Agriculture. I'm Pam Yankee,
hearing
starting
Catherine there
the
just
opening bell
reminded
on
me
Tuesday morning. Quick look at what's happening in agribusiness news.
that I got a friend request from Catherine on Instagram yesterday, and which it looked pretty okay. Although I'm always a little wary when something has no capital letters whatsoever. But I was like, okay, so I said yes to the friend request. Immediately, I get back how are you? However it was phrased, it was so extremely generic. I was just like, oh, I fell for it again. So at least I think so. I sent a note off to her right away, going, "Is this you?" And I thoroughly expect to get the no. So please don't drain my bank account. Whoever you are, you crazy Russian hacker.
Oh God, crazy Russian hacker. I haven't thought of that guy.
That's comments regularly here, so
No, that's a person
using all these different names. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose. Sure. Yeah, right.
His hands are tied to try to change it.
There is virtually nothing I can do, and it is so frustrating. And I can only imagine for those individuals who work in this industry, who are going to have their pocketbooks detrimentally impacted. I can't even imagine the frustration that they're feeling right now. And so we're trying to do what we can to raise awareness and encourage people to reach out to the department. And I'm hoping they reverse course, because this is absolutely a boneheaded maneuver.
Wisconsin Senator Pat Testin. Now they're accepting comment at the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection on these proposed livestock licensing fee increases until October 15th. If you want to find details, we've got them up on our website now, MidwestFarmReport.com. And you can also hear the rest of my conversation with Pat Testin on our playlist. Markets are next.
You can't do the same thing and expect different results. So here's some advice. Change the seed and you'll change the game. Zitavo soybean seed is the seed you've always wanted. It's been tested again and again, going through at least 12 quality control protocols, because 11 wasn't enough. All to ensure that you get consistent performance from every seed that can pay off with better soybean yield. Zitavo soybean seed is ready to raise the bar for soybeans. Are you? Learn more at xitavosoybeanseed.com. Always read and follow label directions.
Monday, the barrel cheese was unchanged. 40-pound block cheese was down 4 at $1.75, and double A butter dropped 5.5 to $1.69.5 per pound. This morning, November Class 3 milk that goes into cheese is up 6, $16.97. December new crop corn up a penny at $4.22. November beans are up 2, $10.19. July new crop wheat's unchanged, $5.55 a bushel. Just a quick market snapshot on a Tuesday. I'm Farm Director Pam Yankee. Catch Farm Report updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here on 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Finally, a stretch of some crisp fall weather for today. Increasing sunshine with highs in the mid-60s. Tonight, clear and chilly, lows in the mid to upper 30s. On Wednesday, some frost possible early, otherwise sunny skies with highs in the lower 60s. Currently, it's 52.
No fear here, just monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. This October, the only thing creeping near your bed is a deal too good to miss. We custom make every mattress so you know exactly what's inside. No tricks, just treats. Save hundreds on mattresses, foundations, headboards, sheets, and more. Monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Upgrade your bedroom and unleash the sleep of your dreams. American made, locally crafted, Verlo. Hurry in before these monster savings vanish. Verlo Mattress of Madison.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
State Senator Jeff Smith, we're talking about the Veteran Housing and Recovery Program. Republicans blocked funding for this.
They instead sent the governor a 16-page letter blaming him for this problem. Well, it was in his budget. Once the budget is out of his office and in their hands, it's up to them. Our job is to manage the funding. We can do it, but the governor can't. So it's avoiding.
Let's start today's history lesson with happy birthday greetings to John Mellencamp, 74 years old today, the pride of Seymour, Indiana. Not a bad record, pun intended, for Johnny Cougar Mellencamp. 14 top 20 hits, 30 million albums sold in the U.S., 60 million albums sold worldwide. Member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, member of the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and 74 years old today. You know, not one of those who burned himself out too soon and is still out there kind of telling it like it is in his own way. A lot of Midwestern sense and sensibility going out there from John Cougar, who I haven't heard from in a while, but I don't doubt he's probably still performing out there or getting ready to. Never know when the next thing is coming along next, you know?
No, you never do. It's hard to tell with musicians if they're just going to be like, you know what, that was enough, I'm done. Yeah. Or if they are going to go on forever and ever and ever.
and some, like our next birthday celebrant here, according to stories, I mean, could have been doing a lot more, but some people don't manage their money very well or their fame. And, you know, next thing you know, you don't hear from them quite as often. And one of those would be Toni Braxton, who is 57 years old today. I did the math wrong. She is 58 years old today, Toni Braxton. On this day in 1913, the Ford Motor Company introduced the first moving vehicle assembly line, which started a whole generation of people who did one thing and did it well. And then you'd ask them, what's at the end of this line? What exactly are you building? I don't know. I just know that this goes here and something else happens, and it's a car when all is said and done.
I am way too far up the line to have any clue what I am working towards right now.
But hey, if you do one thing and do it well, then the output will take care of itself. So let's see. The late Colin Cooper, lead singer of the Climax Blues Band, was born this day in 1939.
Time was drifting, this rocket got to roll. So I hit the road and made my get.
Other birthdays today include Joy Behar from The View is 83 years old today. And happy birthday to Vladimir Putin, the Russian dictator. Says here he's 73 years old today. Wait a minute. I've just been handed this note threatening to throw me out a hotel window if I don't say happy birthday, Vladimir Putin, 39 years old today. Happy birthday, Vlad. You don't look a day older than your actual 73. But anyway, do you suppose that Donald Trump sends the same kind of birthday card to him like he did to Jeffrey Epstein?
I mean,
who knows what those notes look like, you know? Let's see. Music history. It was on this day. It was 30 years ago today that Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill reached the top of the album chart. It would give the record label Maverick, which was founded by Madonna, its first #1 album from Alanis Morissette.
Do I stress you out? My sweater is on backwards and
wait a minute, we've already heard this. Why am I listening to this again?
What do you mean?
I swear we've had this song in the time I've worked here already.
Oh, well, that's possible. It might have been about the single rather than the album. It might have been her birthday. You know, we do a broad variety of things here. Sometimes I try really hard to make sure that songs don't repeat themselves at least, too close to one another. There's some detailed notes in this 365-page Word document I've put together over the years on these birthdays. But now I got to go back and I got to see what other Alanis Morissette songs have I put on the calendar and make changes accordingly. So thank you for bringing it to my attention.
I'm sorry. I just remember I don't like this song.
Well, that was certainly one way of putting it. Oh, you're playing this song again. Okay.
Do I stress you out? Yes, yes, you do.
Apparently it does for you. It very much so. The one that stresses me out is ironic off of there, because a lot of the things in the song aren't ironic. They're just bad things that happened that day. But not this particular song, but I will do all I can to make sure that All I Really Want is not heard in this history segment anymore, because Parker Olson
I
does
give
not
you
like this song.
1 year.
Okay, 1 year. Okay. Tune in next October 7th when Alanis Morissette celebrates 31 years of Jagged Little Pill being at the top of the album charts. The most lopsided college football game in American history took place this day in 1916 when Georgia Tech upset Cumberland University. It probably wasn't much of an upset. The final score, Georgia Tech 222, Cumberland University nothing. How much did they hate somebody at Cumberland University? Maybe the coach was mouthing off, quarterback, somebody that you don't call off the dogs. And you run up 222 points on the other team.
I kind of respect that in a way.
Really?
a little bit. Because, it was 1916. Like, you must have been really angry at somebody because there wasn't social media. They must have actually said something to you, like right there.
We're going to prove how tough we are. And they did. They followed it up. So good on them. Here's another number one album. It was from this day in 1989. The album was Forever Your Girl, and the singer was Paula Abdul.
Baby, seems we never, ever agree. You like the movies, and I like TV.
Now, some albums, they climb up the chart rather quickly once released. Some debut at or near the top of the charts. This one, back in 1989, took a little bit longer. It took 64 weeks from the time it was released to hit the top of the album chart. I believe that is still the record for the longest climb to the top of the album chart from when an album was released. And that just tells me that, just little bit by little bit, as these singles were released and played on the radio, eventually people were like, I should probably get that album.
I suppose. I wonder what happened during those 64 weeks. Was she still turning out music? And she was still like, hey, you should really listen to that one, though.
Maybe doing the album promotion tour ever so slowly and just grinding away at it. I don't know, but she finally made it work for her. Let's see. On this day in 1986, The Police released their final single. So this was the final single, Don't Stand So Close to Me. It came off a greatest hits album that came out in 1986. The group had actually broken up 2 years earlier at the height of their fame. But Sting began to pursue a solo career, and they tried to get the band back together once or twice in the studio and said, it's just not there anymore. And so except for a few reunion appearances, they were done. Pretty much at the height of their fame, and their last single was released this day in 1986. And another birthday to pass along. No, not a birthday. I'm sorry, a recording date. It was on this day in 1939 that 16-year-old Judy Garland stepped into a recording studio and did this little bit of music immortality.
Way over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
Yeah, Judy Garland recording that song on this day in 1939. As often happens in the history lesson, not everything is entertaining or featurey, but certainly worthy of mention. It was on this day in 2001 that the U.S. began its invasion of Afghanistan with an air assault and covert operation on the ground, which would start the longest war in American history. The Fox quote-unquote news channel began broadcasting this day in 1996. And in national news today, you no doubt will be hearing about today marking the second anniversary of the terrorist group Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups launching an attack into Israel, which resulted in the deaths of around 1,200, mostly civilians, the taking of more than 200 hostages, including civilians and soldiers. And so far in the resulting war, at least 67,000 Palestinians have been killed as well. So some of the history notes from today. The National Day Calendar, Parker is the steward of that, and we'll take a look at what do we have for national days today?
It's pretty light on the National Day calendar, but it is National Fruit at Work Day, Pat.
Fruit at Work Day.
Fruit at Work Day. I wish I was aware of this before I made my lunch.
Look, there's no national bring fish to work day and warm it up in the microwave. Fruit is a lot less annoying. You got your little, container of grapes, or you bring along, your orange slices. Hey, that's all fine.
I hear it's a big month for apples.
And it is a big month. Yes, it is. Funny that you should say that. Sheila Everhart will be along with Hans Breitenmoser coming up in our next hour to talk all about how about them apples and what you can do with them around Wisconsin. What else we got for the National Day calendar?
It is National Frappe Day, which is about as close as I will get to getting a coffee, frankly. When I go to Starbucks.
I know I see that on drink menus, but is that just iced coffee? Is that kind of it?
I really don't know.
Let me look it up here. It's a Greek iced coffee drink, according to Wikipedia, so it must be true. Made by shaking instant coffee, sugar, and a splash of cold water to create a thick foam, which is then served with cold water or milk over ice. It is sometimes confused with a blended ice cream-based drink like Frappuccino, but the original Greek frappe is not blended, but vigorously shaken to achieve its characteristic foamy texture. And now you know. Little instant coffee, as if drinking regular coffee were not abhorrent enough of a thought for Parker. It's the notion of, here, let's put some instant coffee on ice and put in some water and milk, shake it vigorously, and get you a foam. Really not, I'm not selling it at all, am I here?
Whatever. I'm not, I'm sticking to my water,
Yeah.
That's all I need.
That's all right. I will not annoy you about that any longer. Please forgive me. I want you to be happy. What else is on the calendar today?
Oh, it's Forgiveness and Happiness Day.
Oh, well, how appropriate for me. So
I want the spirit.
Forgiveness and Happiness Day.
Yeah, one day. That's one thing. I don't know why that's one thing.
Actually, again, there is no single calendar that, only one person decides what's here and what's not. I mean, like I've said before, there have to be 20 different variations of National Dog Day or Pet Your Dog Day or Happy Dog Day. And the same goes for things like this. Forgiveness and Happiness Day. I don't know what prompted this particular October 7th Forgiveness and Happiness Day, but somebody said, hey, we've got to put this on here. So
somebody was feeling a little down and they wanted to pick up their friend.
Yes, I hope so. So again, find yourself somebody to forgive and to make them happy today. Still ahead, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking to Sheila Everhart of the Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association about Wisconsin apples and its many varieties and how you can enjoy picking your own out there across Wisconsin's orchards. Hans Breitenmoser will talk to us about ag issues as well, including bailing out farmers. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
there. And meanwhile, while we're doing all this happy stuff, the comment section just blowing up with people throwing stuff at each other.
I saw the pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I saw that comment and I thought, oh, is that a Wizard of Oz?
Nope, it came ahead of that. So, yep. Anyway, my thanks to the folks who come help out.
I was good. Yeah. I don't think people understand that you're actually supporting it. No matter what you're saying, you are supporting the stream.
Yeah, the click still counts, whether it's an angry click or not. So we'll take it. All right, we'll do some entertainment stuff next.
Sure thing.
Okay.
12-hour smoked pulled pork, and of course, their pizzas. Voted best of Madison, Sugar Ripper Pizza is known for great food, great drinks, and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Located on Cabela Drive in Sun Prairie, they also offer catering. Sugar Ripper Pizza, where fall feels like home.
This is Chad Spade. Are you thinking about improving your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're proud to offer remodeling done well with love. And our commitments to you and your home convey that love and spell our name. The Chad's experience is structured to provide excellent communication, honesty, accuracy, detailed proposals, and satisfied customers. We're also committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. If you want a quality remodel and a quality remodeling experience, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
State Street strolls, lakeside bike rides, and conversations that go late into the night. That's Madison. And that's what you'll hear on 92.7 WMDX. Real voices, real news, real connection. Because this city isn't just where we broadcast, it's where we live. WMDX. Made in Madison, for Madison.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. My training helps me at work when I lead by example. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my community and those I care about safe from threats. Learn more about how you too can live and serve part-time close to home by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard, aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Monster savings are creeping in this October at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Save hundreds off of mattresses, bed frames, sheets, pillows, and more.
Well, if you're getting excited for the Brewers, seeing if they can sweep the Cubs and win best 3 out of 5 series, you'll have to wait for tomorrow when the series moves to Wrigley Field. Coverage begins tomorrow at 3:30 on civic media stations up in Hayward, Park Falls, Racine, Kenosha, Oshkosh, and Richland Center. And if you really like sports on the radio, you'll want to know that the Wisconsin Badger football team will be playing Iowa, and it is a late game on Saturday. Coverage will begin at 4 o'clock on civic media stations in Richland Center. Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, and Ripon head over to civicmedia.us to learn more. The daily newsletter from Up North News, get that by subscribing at upnorthnewswi.com. And it is Banned Books Week, and Ellie has an article in there about different groups hosting virtual book clubs this week to showcase some of their favorite banned books. So you can learn what those titles are and how you can take part, again, by being a subscriber to our newsletter, upnorthnewswi.com for that. And of course, we have our weekend Sunday morning newsletter with our question of the week. This time around, it is our way too early first poll for Wisconsin governor in the Democratic primary. And we have plenty of people choosing candidates who have announced and choosing some candidates who are not necessarily candidates yet. They haven't announced. We don't know for sure that they will announce, but people are giving us their preferences, in some cases just sending us a name, in other instances telling us why they're supporting this person for governor. Again, we're not committing you. Don't have to put in blood that you're going to vote for this person next August in the primary. But who do you support right now? And again, you can sign up for the newsletters at upnorthnewswi.com. Parker Olson not only produces this fine mess of a program here, but also tracks some of the entertainment news and feature stories to share with us this time every day. What's he got for today?
Today, and actually it is today, that there is a 2-hour-long documentary about Ozzy Osbourne coming out.
Does that come out to see? I was just glossing over entertainment news and sections, and I kept seeing Ozzy's name in the headlines, and I wasn't sure, what the deal was about. So the documentary comes out today?
Documentary comes out today. It's on Paramount Plus. You can stream it. It's the last 6 years or so of his life, including his final show as well. So that could be really interesting to watch. And it kind of just covers how he's kind of struggled with his health those last few years.
Okay. I mean, look, I've made clear I grew up with parents that were listening to Neil Diamond and Barbara Streisand and things like that. So Ozzy's not really in my, milieu. But is that something that you have interest in watching, or
No, not quite.
just to see what the fuss is about? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe to see what the fuss is about. Maybe to learn more about him. I'll give you that. Maybe to learn a little more.
I mean, obviously, when he had the reality show that first came out, him and his wife Sharon and the kids, I mean, I will admit, I kind of rolled my eyes at first, like, oh, really? But, and again, I never like sat through the show, but you can't help but see clips from time to time, and there's just something entertaining, or heartwarming, or whatever you want to call it, about somebody who's got this really strong persona out there in public, and then they're just, they're just dad at home, and dad can be a little goofy sometimes. And I think I may have told the story once or twice before, I'm not sure, but growing up, one of my younger sisters, her best friend, she'd go over and play at the house sometimes and talk about this really sweet dad. The sweet dad was Baron von Raschke. For folks that watched wrestling back in the 1970s, he was one of the bad guys. He was the first one that had the claw. And when the claw came out, that, he was about to win the match. And he was like, this is a big time villain. And he was the sweetest dad in the world. And so you see that with Ozzy Osbourne and others. And I just think that's great.
There you go.
Compared to the ones who have this really sweet appearance on the outside. And then you learn later on, they are just a first class jerk, behind the scenes. So I would much rather see it go the way that we're seeing from Ozzy Osbourne and Baron von Raschke and others. So there you go. What else you got out there today?
We've also got, I don't know when exactly this will hit for people, what like generation of people this will hit for, but Reading Rainbow was frankly, I barely remember what it was. Basically just like a TV show about reading books and stuff, if I remember correctly.
Unlike PBS, right?
Yeah, it's gonna make a comeback. It's been away for like 20 years, but it'll be on YouTube channel called Kidzoku, which is operated by Sony.
Okay.
There's 4 episodes. They're gonna have John Legend is one of the guests, so they've already got some guests in there, and it's gonna be hosted by a librarian and Thursday advocate.
Tony is telling us on YouTube, Reading Rainbow is for all generations.
I agree.
It wasn't for mine. It came up later on. I was already a voracious book reader at that point, but big supporter. And I know that author Laura Ann Bird, whenever we have her on, the first time we had her on and we played the Reading Rainbow theme as her walk-up music, and I thought she was just going to melt into a puddle right there. She was just so happy to have that. So when you hear it from time to time on this show, you know that Laura Ann Bird is going to come and recommend some great books for us. So that part's very cool. Anything else?
Do you want to try to tackle the whole 100% tariff on foreign-made films?
No, because I think that's enough said to lead us into what we're going to be talking about in the next hour. In part, is this whole notion of the Trump trade war and the tariffs that are supposed to. Well, it's not really clear what they're supposed to do. I mean, if you're taxing foreign films, and now there's, I guess, new taxes on foreign trucks that come in and things like that, and is somehow it's supposed to revive American manufacturing and American filmmaking and all of that. But these things don't turn on a dime, and so there's a lot of suffering if this is the way you go, rather than trying to just nurture, new industries or rebirth of industries. But farmers found that out the hard way with Trump's first trade war back in 2018, and they are finding it out again with the current trade war from the president. There's now talk of a bailout. It was a $20 billion bailout in 2018. It might be a $50 billion bailout for taxpayers this time around. We'll cover that and much more in the next hour here on These Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network.
For real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
All right.
ABC News.
Time to get another cup of coffee. That's going to get cold way too fast.
I'll just put it in the microwave.
There you go. I don't have one here. It's all the way downstairs. I mean,
Oh, okay.
First
Say
world
the entire
problems.
house.
Life is so hard. So hard.
Oh, poor Pat.
To stop the guard from coming to that state. However, says ABC's Peter Haralambous,
It's a bit of a tightrope in terms of what a city can actually do to impede federal law enforcement and the National Guard, and what the Trump administration will theoretically do in response. On Monday afternoon, President Trump was asked about this, and he suggested that he might even invoke the Insurrection Act if cities across the country continue to push back against his work.
the government shutdown drags on. No new talks are scheduled on ending it. It's starting to affect the nation's airports, where flight attendants have been calling in sick. They're among the hundreds of thousands of workers furloughed during the stalemate. Actually, air traffic controllers. This is ABC News.
Farm news that impacts you and your community from the Midwest Farm Report throughout your day on 92.7 WMDX.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Could one of the most powerful people in the state capitol be leaving office? Stuart J. Waddles reports.
The longest-serving Speaker of the State Assembly is thinking about stepping down next year. Racine County Representative and Assembly Speaker Robin Voss told WISN 12's Upfront program he hasn't decided yet, but is weighing his options. He said it's not the first time he's thought about quitting, but he says past challenges kept him going. In the interview, Voss did say he expects Republicans to keep control of the Assembly. He said he's looking forward to working with whomever becomes the new governor. He says he'll make a decision in January.
And Governor Tony Evers has signed a bill into law that cracks down on misusing artificial intelligence. Wisconsin Act 34 is a bipartisan measure that targets the use of AI to create or share explicit photos of someone without their consent, specifically photos that aren't even real. They can be used as a form of revenge porn, which the state already has laws against. Adding AI to the statute specifically adds new protections as more and more deepfakes show up online. It used to be really easy to tell when somebody's face was edited into a photo, but that's only gotten harder. The law specifically defines synthetic intimate representation and prohibits posting AI with the intent to harass or intimidate someone. Supporters say it's about protecting privacy in a digital world. Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers are again focusing on free speech on college campuses. They're proposing a bill that would punish universities if they violate free speech rights. Schools could face lawsuits, tuition freezes, and would even have to note violations on admissions documents. The plan also calls for First Amendment training and surveys about political bias every 2 years. Similar bills are being considered in 19 states. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
Another Brewers comeback. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports Baseball. The Brewers with a 7-3 win over the Cubs last night in Milwaukee. The Crew now up 2-0 in the best-of-5 series, which now moves to Chicago tomorrow afternoon, just after 4 o'clock. Manager Pat Murphy.
How does this team have the best record in baseball? Nobody predicted they'd be over 500. And then we have all the injuries. Certainly nobody was banking on us.
Home runs from Andrew Vaughn, Jackson Chourio, and William Contreras, who says he dedicates it to the fans.
I'm going to do everything for the Brewer fans. I'm going to do everything for my teammate. I want to be one of the best on the plate. I want to be the best catcher. They have to look Contreras how play. I want to bring that energy too for the team. And now it's showtime.
The Cubs now down 2-0.
After getting off to a great start, those mistakes for 2 3-run homers is going to be, you're not going to win playoff games giving up 2 3-run homers. That was just too much to overcome.
That's Cubs manager Craig Counsell with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
You're listening to 92.7 WMDX, Madison's home for the Town Hall Ball Show, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Finally, a stretch of some crisp fall weather for today. Increasing sunshine with highs in the mid-60s. Tonight, clear and chilly, lows in the mid to upper 30s. On Wednesday, some frost possible early, otherwise sunny skies with highs in the lower 60s. Currently, it's 52.
Hey, Gordy, I gotta admit, these hearing aids from Madison Hearing Aid Center changed my life.
Mine too, John. I thought I needed subtitles to talk to my grandkids.
And these aren't those old giant clunkers we saw in the old days. It's got Bluetooth, it's rechargeable, the works.
Yeah, my phone connects straight to my ears. I'm basically a cyborg now.
Hey, you just figured out texting last year, too.
Yeah, baby steps. But I did call Madison Hearing Aid Center, and you should too. 608-249-4077.
608-249-4077. Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
No fear here, just monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. This October, the only thing creeping near your bed is a deal too good to miss. We custom make every mattress so you know exactly what's inside. No tricks, just treats. Save hundreds on mattresses, foundations, headboards, sheets, and more. Monster savings at Verlo Mattress of Madison. Upgrade your bedroom.
This one should be good. Here we go. All right.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media.
Good start.
You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News.
Got that
He
right.
still isn't wearing a cowboy hat. I don't know what's up with that. I'm a little
told
upset.
you.
Maybe he's got boots on. Maybe that's it.
I got the boots.
There we go. He's got the boots. He's the founding editor of Up North News. It's Pat Kreitlow.
That would be me. I think we're gonna go visit the Fort Worth stockyards today and get a feel for what those cowboys do with the longhorn steers and things like that. My daughter, who lives down here, can't wait to show it off. So we'll do
She's
that.
really excited about that.
She is. Well, I've seen some video when she's taken other guests there. So apparently it's a big deal. So I will be talking about cattle tomorrow. I promise. But I do have the boots. I actually do have a very good looking black cowboy hat. Just I don't have any need to wear it here.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that's deserving of having to pack that thing away. So
Oh, you didn't bring it?
I did not bring it, but if I might see a better one. So
You might see a better. I'll give you that.
I might have two cowboy hats by the time this is all said and done. Nice to have you back here. It's just about 7:07 right now, and coming up this hour, we're going to be talking to Sheila Everhart from the Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association and dairy farmer Hans Breitenmoser. We'll talk about the apple crop in Wisconsin. We'll talk about the trade war. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this segment as well, and the ways that the government shutdown is being made worse by people like Donald Trump and his transportation secretary, Sean Duffy. That's all coming up. First, let's check the mailbag here. Rob says, good morning from Tigerton. Clear skies, 40 degrees right now. Yesterday, he was doing paperwork for the mowing season. Took pictures of the farmers that leased my family's property that were chopping up corn. We talked about reading Rainbow in the last segment, and Alicia was all over that in YouTube, saying reading Rainbow is very much a millennial thing, so that's great. We were talking about the Ozzy Osbourne documentary coming out, and Tony puts up, there's just always something interesting about a guy who eats bats. Just saying. On Banned Book Week, which you can read about in the Up North News Daily newsletter, Alicia says that the Milwaukee Public Library has a great TikTok on banned books. The Milwaukee Public Library's had a lot of great TikToks. And so, yes, I would definitely be looking forward to reading about that. Let's see. Tony also was expressing his happiness with the great emotions of Jacob Mizorowski coming out of the bullpen yesterday. And Roger from Stevens Point says, I'm grateful for Andrew Vaughn's home run, which was the first inning equalizer in yesterday's game. Yes, absolutely. For folks that might have missed it, and some of us did go to bed early, but it felt like the game was well in hand. The Brewers defeated the Cubs last night in Game 2 of the National League Division Series. Final score 7-3, and all the runs for the Brewers came on home runs this time, compared to Game 1 where the Brewers scored 9 times and none of them came off of home runs. But yeah, you had the Andrew Vaughn 3-run homer in the bottom of the first to offset a Cubs 3-run homer in the top of the first. You had a William Contreras solo shot, and then you had Jackson Chourio with his own 3-run homer to help the Brewers beat up the Cubs and take a 2-0 lead in the series. And so they are just one win away from going to the National League Championship Series, where they will face the winner of the Dodgers-Phillies series, which the Dodgers are up 2-0 on Philadelphia. It was a bullpen game for the Brewers because Brandon Woodruff is out with an injury. So Aaron Ashby opened things up. He did give up that 3-run homer in the first. But after that, how's this for a bullpen game? Nick Me, Chad Patrick, Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill, and Abner Uribe. 7 1/3 innings of shutout relief and allowed just one hit. And just a couple of base runners. Jacob Mizorowski threw 3 scoreless innings to earn the win. And he had pitches that topped out Parker at 104.3 miles an hour. And I know it sounds like hyperbole, but I really do. I'll say it again one of these times. You're going to hear the announcers going, "Oh, his arm fell off. His arm's just laying there in the grass." Yep. I could see that happening.
It's like a Toy Story or something. When Woody's arm
exactly. And he just waves it and plugs it back in and throws it at 105 miles an hour, the next time around. Could totally see that happening. I was a little concerned when he ran all the way to first base on a ground out to make the play himself, but he had acknowledged after the game he was just feeling so pumped up. He was afraid he would overthrow Andrew Vaughn at first base, which, in hindsight, I could totally see that happening. And I would go crazy if that happened.
Yeah, he did the right thing. I was worried that he was going to blow out a hamstring when he jumped up in the air celebrating.
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. I mean, because again, you can get some really goofball injuries, like people who've stomped on home plate coming in from a home run and twist an ankle or something. So
Did you see during the Phillies game before the Brewers game that an umpire definitely pulled a hamstring while making an out call?
No. Oh no.
It was in all of its slow motion glory too, because it was a replay review. And he just he punches him out, and all of a sudden he's like,
Oh no.
That sucks.
See, even if you're an umpire, you got to do those stretches, No, it was one of those cases where, again, the Dodgers-Phillies game ran a little long, and so they started the Brewers-Cubs game over on TNT before moving it back to TBS. We're here at my daughter's place using one of those satellite systems that doesn't really, you don't pick the channel so much as you pick the game, and then it goes to that channel. But of course, if it's on a different channel, good luck going to find it. I mean, we did eventually find a way to find the right channel to do that. But it's one of those TV things that just always bugs me, is like, just put the game where it's supposed to be.
You should. But you know what? You don't need to worry about it when you listen to it on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Funny that you should say that, because game 3 rather. Oh, I've got my graphic is wrong on there. Game 3 of the series will be at Wrigley Field, and that will be tomorrow afternoon. The pregame will get started at 3:30 on several Civic Media stations: Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Park Falls, and Hayward, where you could conceivably see the Brewers sweep. Now, again, if they don't, then game 4 will be at Wrigley. And then if needed, a deciding game 5 would be back at American Family Field come Saturday. So it'd be nice to wrap it up tomorrow, but you just got to win 1 out of the next 3.
Yeah. I think as long as we win it at Chicago, I will be happy.
That would feel really nice,
wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I could totally get into that. So again, congrats to the Brewers for a nice victory there, and giving us a little distraction from some of the realities of our headlines today, which include a trade war, that include a government shutdown and things like that. You had President Trump saying yesterday, indicating that he would be supportive of doing some kind of a bailout plan for America's farmers, since China's buying nothing, not the $12 billion worth of soybeans, for example, that they typically buy in a year, but 0. And so all these farmers have no market to go to with their beans and corn and everything else. So Trump's quote from yesterday was, "I'm going to do some farm stuff this week." That'd be the president of the United States telling you and making farmers feel real good, saying, "I'm going to do some farm stuff this week." The stuff is probably going to be some kind of checks that get sent to farmers to, keep them from going out of business. It's the same thing that happened in 2018 when Trump started a trade war with China. It cost taxpayers $20 billion to help support farmers. And by the way, we got nothing for that. I mean, eventually China and the US, they just resumed trade slowly and eventually. But at the time, China went and got their soybeans from Brazil. And guess what they're doing right now? They're getting their soybeans from Brazil and Argentina, a country we just sent billions of dollars to in a government bailout. And Republican lawmakers told the New York Times that they think that a potential farm bailout this time around won't cost $20 billion, but cost more like $50 billion. And what gets me is how they say this so nonchalantly, like, well, you know, it might cost us $50 billion. The people who used to be described as fiscal conservatives, but don't think twice about this. It does not occur to them to say, hey, maybe this guy, the president, yeah, he says he's in our party, but he's driving up the debt. He's driving up budget deficits. He's not accomplishing anything with these tariffs. We're Congress. We can actually limit these tariffs and find another way to negotiate better trade deals. We could maybe do that, but they don't. Everybody's just going along with what one guy says, no matter how uninformed it might be, no matter how harmful it might be, because he's their guy. Take the last shutdown, which not only had the big farm bailout, but you also had air travel that was starting to get gummed up as air traffic controllers and people working TSA and others stopped showing up for work because they weren't getting paid. They were using sick days, vacation days. They weren't taking extra shifts. You would think, again, maybe this is something we want to avoid again, but we are heading that way again. And that's according to the U.S. Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, former congressman from up north who knows a thing or two about bad budget deals and government shutdowns. And yet, what is he saying? He's basically threatening, promising that everybody's going to be facing travel delays. He says, and he's saying this from the standpoint of safety, I guess. He says, quote, if we think there's issues in the airspace, we will shut it down. We will close it down. We will delay. That's his way, I guess, of saying to Democrats, you guys ought to blink. You guys ought to cave, or else there's going to be air travel delays. When, again, the better course of action would be for people like Sean Duffy to acknowledge that Americans actually don't want massive healthcare cuts and the government shutdown that you have forced as a result of it. Because air traffic controllers, they are required to work through the shutdown, but they're only going to get paid retroactively whenever the shutdown ends. And it was their failure to show up for work last time around that led to the eventual deal that ended the government shutdown. On Monday, Duffy said that officials had seen, quote, a slight tick up in sick calls from controllers since the current shutdown began last week. The FAA has already started to slow traffic, did so at 3 airports yesterday using a ground delay program. That's a traffic management tool in which the agency holds flights from departing other airports if they are headed for one with limited capacity. And as somebody who has flown this week and has had to sit on the tarmac for a while waiting for takeoff, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that possibility again later this week, flying back out of Dallas later in the week if this thing continues to drag on. And all indications are it will continue to drag on. We'll find out for sure in a live report from Washington, D.C. in our next hour when we talk to Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom and also author of the Below the Beltway newsletter that you can get through COURIER Newsroom. We'll talk to Cam Stevenson live from Washington, D.C. and Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area about things that are happening in the Wisconsin state capitol. Again, that's all in our 8 o'clock hour. Coming up in about 15 minutes here, we will talk to Hans Breitenmoser and Sheila Everhart. A little more farm talk when we come back, especially emphasizing the apple harvest for this year. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Talk with the good folks at Madison Hearing Aid Center. They're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road. Call them and make an appointment at 608-249-4077. You can take an initial hearing test online at madisonhearingaidcenter.com. Don't let your hearing loss frustrate you anymore. They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
Green and gold football is back at the Lazy Oaf Lounge. Catch the games on 14 large screen TVs. Join meat and jersey raffles at halftime during regular season games and enjoy half-price wings and beer bucket specials. And the Lazy Oaf is a great place for lunch with daily specials, soups made from scratch, and fast, friendly service. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road. Find specials, menus, and more at lazyoaflounge.com.
School sports are played by humans, coached by humans, and officiated by humans. So the next time you're sitting in the stands at a school athletic event, please remember this and maintain your humanity, especially when it comes to judging and critiquing athletes, coaches, and officials. Please show your fellow humans some respect. They'll appreciate your empathy.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
My name's John Driscoll, proud member of the Patriotic Millionaires. When I was CEO at CareCentrix, I doubled entry-level wages. The impact? Productivity went up, turnover went down, and the company was successful. When employees are off the clock, they're real consumers, the consumers that drive the economy with their spending. By paying employees a fair wage, we're actually helping out all of us in giving our economy the best chance to succeed. I'm John Driscoll.
Get yourself signed up for our daily newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe in the banner on top of the homepage. Ellie Bordeaux puts together our weekday newsletter, including a story about Banned Books Week and some virtual book clubs that are out there with an emphasis on reading banned books. Again, that and much more at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up in the banner on top of the homepage. There is a new story on the Milwaukee Journal website from reporter Dan Bice. The headline, Representative Tom Tiffany erases abortion, gun rights, and other issues from his personal website. And Bice notes, and actually, let me back up a step before I tell you what's in the Dan Bice article today. I haven't done this for a little while. I want to make sure I do this. When I share things out of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, the New York Times, and elsewhere, it is never meant to be a substitute for actually subscribing and reading up on some of these stories yourself. I personally am a subscriber to news websites, and you should do the same thing as well. If some of these stories intrigue you and you want to go look for them, you should be supporting good journalism. There are other places, that don't have a paywall yet. They might have, for example, at Up North News, we don't have a paywall. We're never going to have a paywall. But we do have what's called a gate, and that gate invites you to share your email address so you can get a sample of our newsletter, and maybe you want to subscribe to it that way once you've taken a look at it. But, there's also other ways to support good journalism through subscriptions, and that includes the work that the amazing team at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel is doing. So back to the Dan Bice story. He begins by saying, when you've been in office, state and federal, as long as Congressman Tom Tiffany, it's impossible to erase your political past, but you can certainly try. And Bice points toward a website called The Wayback Machine, which preserves snapshots of websites. And it shows that Tiffany at tomtiffany.com had a webpage as of September 17th that listed lots of hot button issues and his positions on them, including abortion and gun safety and crime and immigration, and as he likes to always call it, communist China. But if you look at tomtiffany.com today, the issues page is gone. It's been replaced with something called solutions, with things like protect what makes Wisconsin great, and lower costs for every Wisconsinite. And apparently the New Solutions page, according to the Dan Bice story, makes no mention of guns. There is one mention of immigration. There's one mention of China. Nothing about abortion, nothing about the deficit. That last one makes complete sense because Tom Tiffany is as hypocritical as any other Republican in talking about the deficit. We can't afford that. We can't afford to support health care. We can't afford to support education. We're spending too much. We've got to keep the debt and deficit down, they love to say. Until they just voted, as they did, to add another $4 trillion to the national debt to pay for more than $4 trillion in tax cuts geared toward the very wealthy. So I'm not surprised that he's saying a little bit less about the debt and deficit. But Bice goes on saying the interesting note here is that Tiffany and his team made the switch in the days leading up to his September 23rd announcement that he is now running for Wisconsin governor next year. Wisconsin Democrats, of course, were quick to call out Tiffany. You had Phil Schulman, the spokesperson for the state Democratic Party, saying Tariff Tom is scrubbing his website of abortion and other issues because he knows he's going to have to deceive voters about his extreme record if he's going to win next November. Now, folks with the Tiffany team say there's nothing unusual about updating your website when you're running for, a new office, in this case, governor. But folks have also noticed that when it comes to, for example, abortion rights, that Tiffany is, in fact, some would say shifting his view on abortion. I do not say that. I don't believe he's shifted his views one little bit. He's simply trying to have it both ways. And we've talked about this shortly after he announced that he was running for governor and talking about, in a very, shall we say, generic way, that he supports current state law. And current state law is a 20-week limit on women's reproductive health rights. And I stand by that, and I will uphold that legislation, is what Tiffany told reporters on September 4th. He says, as the governor, I do not plan any changes. And that's very key. That's very well thought out. I do not plan any changes. In much the same way that Scott Walker had said, I'm not planning to do anything with new union busting laws. And of course, once he was reelected, like the very first bill that was sent to him by the legislature was some more union busting laws. And he could not sign that thing fast enough. And of course, when questioned, he was like, no, it wasn't one of my priorities, but it clearly was the legislature. They sent me this bill. What was I going to do? I support it. I'm going to sign. That's exactly where Tom Tiffany is. He has consistently been supportive of near or total abortion bans in Wisconsin. He's been endorsed by a couple of the most extreme groups out there that would remove women's reproductive bodily autonomy. And so don't think for a moment that if he were elected governor and if the Assembly and Senate were to stay in Republican hands and were to send him a near total abortion ban in Wisconsin, that he wouldn't sign it. He would sign it at the drop of a hat. And so the fact that he does not advertise that, he does not trumpet it on his personal website the way that he used to, does not reflect some kind of evolution. This all is, again, a reminder that you cannot simply look at what any candidate or politician says in the moment, unless they are explicit. If they explicitly say, I have changed my position on something, I've changed my way of thinking on this, that's one thing. But when you get what Tom Tiffany's given you is just kind of this, mealy-mouthed, well, I support the way things are right now. Again, people will say a lot of things to get elected. And then once they get elected, you see who they really are, which is a lot of what's reflected in what they've already said and written. Hans Breitenmoser and Sheila Everhart are coming up after the Midwest Farm Report. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, I'll be right back.
Madison, Wisconsin. Students, government, lakes, and 92.7 WMDX.
Farmers are not the only ones that are keyed in on weather. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Tuesday. In fact, all of us are paying attention to what's happening with Wisconsin weather. Now, a great opportunity to dive a little deeper into the systems that help predict our weather. That story next.
No one should have to navigate herd health alone. Luckily, you don't have to. A successful operation requires teamwork. Visit bio-vet.com and let us help identify key challenges and offer expert solutions unique to your situation. We evaluate your full herd health plan and make economical recommendations to your operation. Learn more about our team and products for herd health at bio-vet.com.
Innovation, that's BioVet.
If you're into weather, then you want to be in the Madison area on October 25th for this year's Wisconsin Science Festival. It's going to offer a special weather event at the Wisconsin Energy Institute on the UW-Madison campus. WiscoNet manager Chris Bogoski is going to help people understand the behind the scenes of Wisconsin weather. Southern Wisconsin is home to the Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences Department, the National Weather Service, several big market TV meteorologists, the State Climate Office, and WiscoNet. And he wants the general public to know more about all of them.
We're going to be bringing all of them together to talk about all the different things that they do to study and learn more about the atmosphere and weather and climate in Wisconsin and around the world. So we'll have a weather station set up. We'll have a TV monitor so you can see how the weather gets from the weather station to your TV screen. We'll have the tools that people use in Antarctica so that they can study the weather without freezing. So there's a lot of really cool, unique things that we're going to have on display. So we're really excited for it.
Chris Bogoski, he is the WiscoNet manager, introducing the general public to more of the layers of weather forecasting that you depend on. Now, the Wisconsin Science Festival runs October 16th through the 26th, but as I said, this special weather event happening October 25th. Learn more at wisconsinsciencefest.org.
Unique farming operations need unique financial solutions. Ag Country Farm Credit Services offers customized financing that fits any size farm, ranch, or agribusiness. The next time you're in the market for more land, equipment, facilities, or maybe even an operating loan, contact the team at Ag Country. They know agriculture and will work for you. Ag Country, focused on ag, focused on you. Ag Country is an equal opportunity lender.
Hey, don't forget, we've got a brand new Midwest Farm Report app available for download. Find it in your Play Store, Midwest Farm Report. I'm Pam Yankee.
92.7 WMDX, Madison's real news and great conversation, and home to the Todd Allball Show, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Finally, a stretch of some crisp fall weather for today. Increasing sunshine with highs in the mid-60s. Tonight, clear and chilly, lows in the mid to upper 30s. On Wednesday, some frost possible early, otherwise sunny skies with highs in the lower 60s. Currently, it's 52.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still have that.
All right, let's take a roll call here. We got Hans is here. Hans, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. And Sheila, you hearing me okay?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hear you great. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. We're in good shape here. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll jump right into it in about 45 seconds here. So I'll see you in just a bit.
Piece of legislation in regards to housing, and who have you reached across the aisle and worked with on this issue?
I worked with folks like Rep Armstrong, who our districts couldn't look any different. But when you center the actual experiences of your district, not your political parties, but the things that people need, there's a lot more alignment and possibility when that is the centerpiece.
20 seconds.
Coming up in 1 hour, we'll be talking to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area and Civic Media's political editor, and he helps put together Civic Media's new daily newsletter. Sign up for it at civicmediatoday.substack.com. Again, civicmediatoday.substack.com. All right, always nice to welcome back in a couple of friends talking to us about Wisconsin agriculture. That, of course, would be Hans Breitenmoser, a dairy farmer from the Merrill area up in Lincoln County, and Sheila Everhart from the Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association. Great to see you both as always. We're going to get to a very plentiful and variety-filled apple crop coming up in just a bit here. But Hans, I also wanted to, of course, take note of the government shutdown and its impact on farmers. And then there's also some upbeat news about it being National 4-H Week. So let's get the not so happy stuff out of the way first here. A government shutdown makes for a lot of political headlines, but it's got real life impact. And what does that mean for farmers across America, for example, with the Farm Service Agency offices closed?
Well, it sort of stinks, Pat, because the Farm Service agencies are our local connection to the federal government and any federal government programs and so forth. And one of the things that happens this time of the year, of course, is that there's a lot of corn and soybeans being harvested. And what a lot of guys will do is especially when prices are low, they harvest those commodities, and rather than sell them at harvest low prices, they will borrow against them through the Farm Service Agency. And because it helps cash flow. And right now, if you try and call the Farm Service Agency, you get a recording that says that they're not there. So it's very difficult because we don't have that resource to work with at a time of the year when we sort of need it. And I think the other thing to that I'd like your listeners to understand is that all those nameless, faceless, terrible bureaucrats that are getting laid off all the time are not just a bunch of people that live in Washington next to the Capitol. They're people that live in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and in, Chippewa Falls and all the places around. Our friends and neighbors are the ones who are right now sitting at home, and they would rather be at work. So it's not just the farmers that are being impacted, but it's the people in those offices.
Yeah, absolutely. And with those offices closed, it means farmers are not getting access to farm program signups, no disaster aid processing, no loan approvals, no access to market data that the government normally provides, and more. So I just wanted to get some of the real life impact of this ongoing shutdown. All right. It's 4-H week. Hans, will start with you and then over to Sheila. Talk about the significance of 4-H. Is it, again, for a city kid? For a city kid, they go, oh, that's something I've heard of. But was that something from the olden days of Wisconsin farming, or is that something still very relevant to rural life in Wisconsin today?
It's very relevant, and I think if you're a parent or a grandparent, please check out 4-H if you're not familiar with it, because there's just so many cool programs. Our kids have been in 4-H for years and years. And there's the usual things that people think of course, about bringing projects to the local county fairs and so forth. And that is a part of it. It's a big part of it. It's a really cool part of it. But there's also so many other things, like my children have taken advantage of really cool civic engagement type things and trips to, exotic places like Washington, D.C. and New York and Philadelphia and so forth, and other places just right here in Wisconsin that I've chaperoned a couple trips for as well. And so it's a great opportunity for kids to learn leadership skills and really, civic engagement and so forth. There's so many opportunities, educational opportunities and travel opportunities that 4-H offers that I think a lot of people just don't know about. And it's also a great place for grownups to get involved with, with the rearing of our children, as far as, chaperoning these trips and so forth, because it does, by God, take a village.
It sure does. And Sheila, for National 4-H Week, you talk as well about 4-H getting people ready for a career and frankly, just getting ready for life as well.
Absolutely. It's all about celebrating our youth, helping them prepare for college and career and life readiness. A recent study said that those children, those students involved with 4-H, likely to live life intentionally and with purpose, and 3 times as likely to participate in community service and volunteer in our communities. And as Hans mentioned, it's about leadership roles, planning events, running meetings, and organizing service projects. So support our local 4-H.
Absolutely. Again, for National 4-H Week. So we wanted to make sure that we made mention of those things. But let's also turn to something that's rather seasonal here. We have our share of apple orchards and products and varieties and things. And I mean, to be clear, I mean, it is a sliver of Wisconsin agriculture and, you know, national agriculture as well. But there's hardly anybody out there that wouldn't accept a slice of apple pie or have a glass of cider, or Sheila, just enjoy the experience of apple orchards in Wisconsin. So it may not be the biggest part of the ag industry, but it's one of the more visible ones, and frankly, one of the more enjoyable and delicious ones.
Absolutely enjoyable and delicious. And my favorite fall food is not only apple pie, but caramel apples. And, you know, traveling from orchard to orchard to see who has the best caramel apples, that's right up my alley. October is National Apple Month, and we celebrate that in promoting the consumption and appreciation of our Wisconsin apples. This started in 1904, but you know, people enjoy eating fresh apples, picking apples from the tree, learning about the best ways to bake apple desserts, and just to experience apple cider donuts, fresh apple cider. So it's important for us to go out and support our family farms and pick up some apples along the way. There's some really cool apples up in your neighborhood, Pat. Apple orchard, all on County Highway 00. Are you familiar with some of those orchards, Pat?
I have definitely seen them, and they are most certainly busy places this time of year. And so, tell folks a bit more about what you can expect if you want to go visit some of these orchards.
Right, you have Bushel and Peck on Highway 00 in Chippewa Falls, and the Connell Family Orchard. Family Roots Orchard is the oldest orchard up in your neighborhood. And then there's Dixon's Apple Orchard. And it's really interesting about Mr. Dixon, Fred. He had started growing a famous champagne apple that he helps to create some apple ciders and some hard apple ciders with that champagne apple. And on our Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association website, we have a blog page that just was launched yesterday talking about all these different apple orchards, like the Little Farmer in Malone over in Prescott. If you want to take a drive, there's Young Acres. Avenue Orchard is up there in Eau Claire. Of course, in the Gaze Mills area, we have Sunrise Orchards that also have activities, and you can actually see them sorting and washing their apples and pressing that apple cider. Over in the Elkhorn area, we have Apple Barn Orchard and Winery, and you know, several of our orchards are also wineries, just like Sequest Orchard, and Lottenbach Orchard up in Fish Creek. And then we have M&T Gibbsville Orchard in Sheboygan Falls. And then Heritage Orchard, they're known for their fresh apple cider in Chilton area.
Very
Do you
nice.
like apple cider, Pat and Hans?
I like apple cider, and I like the hard cider as well. I was just going to ask Hans about that, if he's got a particular favorite apple product.
Yeah, a good hard cider goes a long way, you know, after a hard day's work. But I wanted to mention Helene's Hilltop Orchard is 2 miles from my place, and absolutely a beehive of activity this time of the year. They do a wonderful job. They got lots of trees and a bakery, and it's just a total hotspot in our area this time of the year.
Yeah,
I love seeing Olivia and her husband, and they do great farm to table dinners. And I have toured their farm, and it's a beautiful bakery. So if you have a chance to visit Helene's Hilltop, get out there and enjoy the orchard.
You better be.
For the hard cider now, we're turning to the adult portion of the apple discussion here. Again, it's a fermented beverage made from apple juice when the yeast converts the apple sugars into alcohol. And so again, you've got different types, different flavor profiles. You're using different varieties with them. And so, Sheila, it's not a surprise that a place that, started with, the beer industry, but now we have our share of wineries in the area, that, cider would also be a natural byproduct of some of the many good things we produce in Wisconsin.
Yes, and our farmers are innovative and they're creative, and so they always look at what they are producing and how can they add value to their crops. And by producing hard apple cider, that is just opening another market for them to sell their products.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the variety of products and how to use them, it's been a while since I learned this, but it took me a while to appreciate that not all apple varieties are created equal, and something that you might like to eat, as a plain apple, is not necessarily the best one for a pie or for jelly or something like that. And I know you shared with me a rather detailed chart of all the different apple varieties you can get and all the different ways you can use them, which is not to say you can't use them for everything, but some are going to taste better than others, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and some of them are across the board because the chart was created by Sunrise Orchards and Gaze Mills. And so if you take a Honeycrisp apple, right across the board, they're perfect for everything: eating, pie, sauce, baking, freezing, jelly, salad, and pickling. But if you take something like the red Wisconsin Delicious apple, they're known for eating and they're known for salads. So, when you're going out to pick your apple, of course you want to pick for flavor, but also decide if you're buying your apples in bulk. Maybe you're going to get a full bushel of apples. You want to look at how are you going to utilize those apples, and finding the apple guide variety and availability and uses chart is a perfect way to help you make your apples go a lot further and last all the way through the winter season.
Yeah,
by
I will
storing
second that.
properly.
I will second that by noting that, it's something when you realize that red delicious apples are wonderful for eating, right off the table there, but are not necessarily going to be the best thing to put in a pie. And then you discover something else that is. At the other end of the spectrum, you mentioned Honeycrisp is like perfect for everything. That's so true that I sometimes have to remind myself, Hans, to go shop for some other varieties. Man cannot live on Honeycrisp alone. Well, maybe I could, but you really should find out what else is the right thing for you. I've talked about Sherry's Apple Crisp being just amazing. Do you have a favorite, either a pie or something else that's your favorite apple product besides the beverages, Hans?
Well, I was going to say the hard cider. You took my answer. Look at me, Pat. Do I look like a guy that's averse to apple pie?
No.
Thank you.
You've got that all-American look to you, as any dairy farmer would here in Wisconsin. And again, to learn more, you can always check out the Wisconsin Agricultural Tourism Association website. And there's so many other resources to learn more about apples in Wisconsin. We definitely appreciate the diversion to visit a virtual orchard here for a little while. Hans, thank you. Sheila Everhart, thank you so much as always. Hope you have a great day.
Take care,
Thank you,
guys.
Pat. Thank you for supporting Wisconsin agricultural tourism and our family farms. We appreciate civic media.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that too. Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area and Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom live on Capitol Hill coming up. I'm Pat Kreitlow. All right, there we go. Thank you, Hans. Appreciate it.
People change their lives by improving their hearing. They offer fast and flexible appointments with individualized care. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com and take a free hearing test online. They help John Peterson, they help me, and they can help you too. Call them at 608-249-4077. Don't let hearing loss frustrate you anymore. Go to MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With a Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Does a 2025 federal law cut funding for some emergency broadcast alerts? Yes. A law signed by President Donald Trump on July 24th rescinds $9 billion, including $1.1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB. CPB, which funds NPR, PBS, and affiliates, announced it would shut down. Smaller rural stations rely heavily on CPB for weather and emergency alerts. Wisconsin stations got $8.5 million in 2024. The cuts led to a back and forth between Representative Derek Van Orden and Senator Tammy Baldwin on X over whether emergency broadcast alerts would be affected. I'm Trisha Young for Wisconsin Watch. Fact briefs are bite-sized fact checks of trending claims produced by Wisconsin Watch and GigaFact. Read more at wisconsinwatch.org.
When severe weather hits and the power goes out, do you have a plan? For reliable power and peace of mind, propane can do that.
How is James today?
Oh, I'm a little nervous about those Yankees, but at least the Brewers are playing well.
There you go. Well, that's what baseball will do that to you.
Oh, yeah, every year.
Yep. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I got your notes here. So about 45 seconds, we'll get going here.
Cool.
Twenty seconds.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, and we've still got more to do. And of course, not everybody can sit around here for 3 hours. I mean, I do, but that's my job, to sit here from 6 to 9 a.m. sharing all this information with you. But if you can't hang around for the whole 3 hours, well, don't miss anything. You can pod this program by heading over to Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Follow us that way, and that way you can listen at your leisure. The other thing I like about it is the speed button. And I don't know, Parker, James Kelly's with us well from the Civic Media Newsroom. Either one of you listen to podcasts and then you kind of put it on that, 1.5 speed or even double speed when you play it back?
I can't say I ever do the extra speed on it.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm not taking in my information as efficiently as possible.
Well, again, it's best to do it live here, but I've got one that, frankly, the person I really needed at least 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed. And sometimes if it's a guest that I'm not necessarily, I don't have to hang on every word, I will double speed that thing. Parker, you're young. You probably triple speed it all and ingest it instantly.
2 times 2 I can do really easily. I watch a lot of YouTube at times 2 speed.
Yes, I that's right. YouTube also lets you do that, and it kind of frustrates me that on my DVR, I wish you could do that. You only simply have the fast forward button, which is not the same thing. Whereas if you could play some of your programs back at double speed, that would be very handy. But look at James over here. He's very intent. He's going to get all the information in real time, the way that God meant it to be.
Yeah, luckily I talk fast too.
And it works out well for you. So James is following several stories for us at Civic Media at the newsroom in Chippewa Falls. And let's start in the Chippewa Valley among the stories you're following. Folks around the state might recall that a little over a year ago, there was the abrupt closure of Sacred Heart Hospital in Eau Claire and St. Joseph's Hospital in Chippewa Falls and some Prevea clinics, all done by an Illinois-based company that just up and shut the hospitals down on virtually, no notice. It was a very short window. And there's been talk ever since then about how to essentially restructure healthcare in the Chippewa Valley, not to mention these facilities that have been sitting empty. So what's the latest happening there, James?
Yeah, so the latest is that an organization affiliated with the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, essentially their real estate arm, has sold the Sacred Heart Hospital property on Claremont Avenue in Eau Claire. They sold it to Commonweal Development Corp., which is kind of in the early stages of planning a potential medical research and tech park. So that's going to open up a lot of interesting collaborative opportunities with the university. And the university is actually going to be holding on to about 5 acres of that land. It's right next to where their campus is in downtown Eau Claire. So they'll have some opportunities to expand there as well. So certainly an interesting development about the future of a pretty major transportation corridor there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I heard that the land for Sacred Heart Hospital was going to be taken over or purchased or owned by, like you said, an offshoot of UW Eau Claire, which is right next to the campus. And of course, everybody started talking about whether Sacred Heart Hospital would become, another dorm. Essentially, it's not that far away from Towers dorm, which is similar to some of the dorms in some of the other campuses here. And so there was a lot of speculation, but instead, like you said, maybe some medical research and other things. But I know the university is going to hang on to, what'd you say, about 5 acres of land there?
Yeah, 5 of the 27 acres they'll hang on to for future expansion opportunities.
Exactly. So if you've got a landlocked campus and there's a way to get around that and maybe grow the footprint a little bit, I mean, why wouldn't you do that? So there will definitely be developments happening there, and we'll certainly keep an eye on what's happening in the Chippewa Falls site as well. Let's head much farther up north for the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline and what's happening with either rerouting that oil and gas pipeline or some are certainly still trying to fight its operation at all. What's happening up there right now?
Yeah, so as you know, Pat, there's been this contested case hearing going on for a few weeks between Ashland and Madison. They've had multiple hearings, and last week they finally wrapped up. So the decision is now up to an administrative law judge on whether the project will go forward or whether there are environmental concerns. One thing that I did find interesting in a WPR report about this project is that the Biden administration's EPA found that there could be some risk of substantial impact to the area waterways, which is the main concern of tribal groups and environmental conservation groups. And the EPA under the Trump administration found that there would be no negative impacts to the surrounding areas. So a little bit of disagreement there. Either way, this decision can be appealed. I would assume that whichever side ends up on the losing side of the administrative judge decision will appeal that decision. So this will probably go forward.
I am shocked, I tell you, to hear that there's a difference between the environmental harms that the Biden administration saw versus the environmental harms that the Trump administration has not seen. I am absolutely floored by this, but I don't doubt that James will continue to follow the hearings themselves. And if you're not familiar with all the background of it, Enbridge is Line 5 that runs across the northern edge of Wisconsin there. The Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa wanted to stop operating. Enbridge has said, actually, we'll just route it right around the reservation. But of course, it's still in an environmentally sensitive area, which is why you have these ongoing hearings that James was talking about. And finally, let's look at the Red Cedar River, which flows, through Rice Lake and then down toward Menominee. And it has long had a problem with phosphorus levels. What's the latest on what the research is showing there, James?
Yeah, so this was a report, the annual report from the Red Cedar River Water Quality Partnership. They kind of do monitor these issues with the Red Cedar watershed, which spans 9 counties, mostly in Dunn and Barron counties. Last year's report found that they kept 11,000 pounds of phosphorus out of the waterways, in large part due to kind of better soil health practices for farmers in the area, supported by DNR grants and research efforts. There's a lot of university research going into water quality these days, especially in this region. So certainly an area of impact.
Oh, gosh, without a doubt. I mean, the algae bloom problem has gone on for decades. And so every little advancement to keep phosphorus out of there is appreciated. James Kelly, following these stories and more across northern and western Wisconsin from our Civic Media newsroom in Chippewa Falls. James, good to see you. Have a wonderful day.
Have a good one, guys.
All right. And coming up in our next hour, we'll be talking to Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom, live from Capitol Hill. And then later, Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area on what's happening at the state capitol. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. cam now.
Hey.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. I wish I was part of the recombobulation hour.
Well, in many ways you are. You help us recombobulate. All right, let's work on your microphone stuff here. Parker, you're probably hearing better than me how we want to adjust things today.
Yeah, Cam, can you get that your gain turned up? Like
yes.
there.
Yeah, let me hold on.
My guess is last time it was so echoey in the Capitol that we turned it all the way down to try to avoid all things.
Come on in. And while you do that, let me bring Easton over here, the 11-year-old. Do you have a shark onesie that you can wear, like Easton? Probably not. So
I don't. I wish I did.
Keep that on your shopping list for Christmas time. So anyway, he's doing his virtual schooling here at the desk next to me here. So all right, were you able to find your game?
Sound?
Actually, it sounds like, are you on your computer mic, or are you on?
I'm on. Is this
I'm not hearing that at all. No, it's sounding very much like your computer mic. You want to double check your setting there in StreamYard? The little cogwheel at the bottom.
Hold on. Okay. Okay. It should be on. Should be on the right one now. Does that sound right?
Not quite here. Tap that lavalier mic for a second here. No, I'm not. Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, there it is.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I don't know why.
So
I
we
have
do.
It's got these problems every single time. I don't know.
Well, they're just adjustments. So.
What do you have? What do you have the gain at on the lav mic?
Right now it's at 0. Do you want me to bump it?
Yeah, let's bump that up. Yeah.
Okay. You got it at 3 now? How's that sound?
There we go.
Nice.
We're good.
Good.
We're
Good.
good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
All right. So do you want to go? You want to go with anything off the top, or anything that you want to hit in the body of all of this? What you been up to?
I mean, I've been talking with members of Congress about the shutdown, and a lot of the stuff the Trump administration is doing, one is just talk. Like, they haven't actually fired anyone, even though they've been saying they're firing a bunch of federal workers. They haven't laid anyone off. And then everything they're doing in Portland and Illinois and all of that authoritarian actions, that's kind of just encouraging Democrats to not compromise. That's kind of justifying their purpose, because they'd be compromising with a fascist.
Yeah, well, there is that problem.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think we're in good shape here, so we'll get going in 3 minutes. See you in a bit.
Excellent.
Manager Craig Counsell.
In the first 2 games, we have just not, produced enough pressure on them, and it's, that's going to add up to a lot of zeros.
Game 3 tomorrow afternoon, just after 4:00 at Wrigley Field. Brewers manager Pat Murphy asks if Quinn Priester will be on the mound.
Do you know what your plans are for Game 3 starting pitcher?
Game 3 will be Priester. NBA, the Bucks beat the Heat 103-93 in preseason play. The Packers held practice, and wide receiver Christian Watson out there since that ACL injury last January. Does it feel good to be back?
100%. I got to knock a little bit of rust off. Obviously, it's been a while since I've been able to, go out there and play football, but from just, confidence and just running and everything, it felt really good.
That's Christian Watson with Sports on Mike Clemens.
Mad City, biking through blizzards since forever. 92.7 WMDX.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Finally, a stretch of some crisp fall weather for today. Increasing sunshine with highs in the mid-60s. Tonight, clear and chilly, lows in the mid to upper 30s. On Wednesday, some frost possible early, otherwise sunny skies with highs in the lower 60s. Right now, it's 51.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. covering the news of the day and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community, because change starts with you. Get involved and tune in to the Thom Hartmann program Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your local civic media radio station.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid, from crisis to care.
30 seconds till we're back. Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. He doesn't have a cowboy hat. He says that he might have boots. I wonder if he has chaps. That's my question. Here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
You know, I haven't done enough shopping here in the Dallas Metroplex to go looking for chaps. So that I've got a little time yet to work on that. Anyway, thank you, Parker Olson, producing things in Madison. I normally say down in Madison, but up in Madison from where we are in Texas this week on the road. But nice to have you along from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network. And coming up this hour, we are minutes away from hearing from Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom and the Below the Beltway newsletter, the latest about the government shutdown and more happening in the nation's capital. Then at the bottom of the hour, we will be joined by Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area to talk about state capital matters. Tomorrow on the program, we will have Chuck Collins from Patriotic Millionaires coming in and talking about wealth inequality in this country. And on Thursday, we will have Congressman Mark Pocan joining us to tell us his perspective and the things that he's been doing this week, which includes another round of town halls in the 3rd Congressional District. You may say, but wait, Mark Pocan is not from the 3rd Congressional District. He's in the 2nd Congressional District. That is true. That checks out. But the guy in the 3rd Congressional District, Derek Van Orden, does not feel like hearing from his constituents in a public town hall setting about the government shutdown and the massive cuts to healthcare that are causing it. So Congressman Pocan is helping provide some representation to the constituents there. And so we'll talk to him more on Thursday morning about what is happening. Be sure you join us then. But for the latest on what is happening in the nation's capital right now, let's head over and visit with Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom. He also has the Below the Beltway newsletter that you can subscribe to at beltway.news or head over to couriernewsroom.com to learn much more. Cam, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing all right. You know, it's a little bit slower here the past couple days. We got people on furlough, people worried if they're going to get laid off, and a lot of people just waiting for the government to reopen.
Yeah, and the chatter, I guess you could call it, is that there are plenty of Republicans, members of Congress, who pretty much understand how a lot of us think this is going to end, with eventually restoring some of the cuts either to Medicaid or to Affordable Care Act subsidies or both. And that's the only way that they're going to get Democratic votes, which would end this shutdown. Now, clearly, not every Republican feels like that, and the president certainly is trying to inflict maximum pain in the meantime. But is it just that everybody feels like we're in a holding pattern until people feel like the time is right to actually start negotiating again?
Well, it's almost as if, well, not almost. We are in a forced holding pattern. Typically what would happen during this negotiation process, and I'm sure anyone could apply this to their regular life, is that when you're trying to reach a compromise, the way that you do that is you talk with the people you're trying to compromise with and reach an agreement. And normally during, leading up to a government shutdown or budget talks, that's what happens. But this time around, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, in order to avoid negotiation and compromise at all costs, he has sent every House Republican back home to their district. And just like Representative Van Orden, like you were talking about, he's instructed them not to hold town halls, not to meet with constituents, not to hold fundraisers, not to do anything. Basically just hole up or hide out in the hopes that Democrats will cave and give Republicans everything they want without making any compromise.
So, in other words, vacation. They are getting taxpayer-funded vacations this week, which Van Orden is now getting for a third week, along with other Republican members of Congress. And that's really been the main working mode of the Speaker of the House, is to avoid conflicts by sending the members home and doing no work whatsoever. But the other thing that Speaker Johnson is doing that I know people continue to point out on social media, and my words, not yours, but is just flat out lying about the cause of the shutdown and also the talking points behind this. Again, clinging to the talking point that the massive cuts to healthcare are somehow only going to affect people who otherwise wouldn't be eligible for healthcare, undocumented immigrants, the super wealthy, things like that. Nothing that's in keeping with what the Trump Republican mega bill has actually done to the future of healthcare in this country.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about this lie that they're trying to propagate, is that it's easily disproven, because it's not as if Democrats are asking for universal health care, unfortunately, or anything to change or alter the healthcare system or laws that we have. It's just to keep the laws that we already had. And anyone who works in healthcare or is associated with it in any form knows who has had access to health insurance, who is covered by federal health laws, and who isn't. And it's not the people that Speaker Johnson and President Trump say it is. And so just making stuff up and hoping that people believe it, it may work for a small percentage of the population who wants to believe it anyway, but most people know that that's not the case, and they just want the healthcare that we were already promised.
Right. I mean, it of course it works to your base. They are your base. They lap this stuff up. But when you're trying to appeal to moderate voters, if you're trying to appeal to moderate voters, inflicting pain through a shutdown doesn't help, nor do what I consider the distractions, like sending troops into the streets of American cities, or maybe playing footsie with martial law is a better way of putting it. And there continue to be these court battles about whether the president can unilaterally send federal troops into places like Oregon and Chicago and elsewhere. What's the latest that people are talking about there in DC?
Yeah, well, I mean, people don't like it. They don't like, the representatives I've talked to in Illinois and Oregon, they and their voters are, this should be obvious, but are very against the idea of active military troops being in their cities and policing civilians. I'm speaking with Representative Maxine Dexter later today, who says that, one, they want to make sure that troops don't come into Portland. It's just like any other city in any other state. There's things are operating normally. There might be a couple of scuffles here and there, but Portland isn't the war zone that the President of the United States says it is, and they don't need troops there. And his insistence on militarizing our cities is only strengthening their resolve to not compromise, because when you compromise even on budget stuff, in essence, you're compromising with an administration that's okay sending military against regular citizens.
Yeah, we're talking to Cam Stevenson from COURIER Newsroom. He authors the Below the Beltway newsletter. You can sign up for that over at beltway.news or couriernewsroom.com to get all of his latest dispatches from Capitol Hill. When I colored this as a distraction, obviously the one that hasn't been talked about lately would be the Epstein files. But again, I notice, through social media more so than the broadcast networks, that there are still people that haven't taken their eye off of that ball. That, again, as if we're talking just about moderate voters or swing voters, the more that they know, or the more that they're reminded that somebody is sitting on these files and denying justice for all these victims, it resonates with them. And I don't doubt that the Trump administration is well aware of that as well, doing everything possible that the name Jeffrey Epstein doesn't come up in news coverage. But, other people haven't forgotten.
No, well, and despite his insistence that everybody forget, the president of the United States hasn't either. And he's instructed his, acolytes, his sycophants in Congress to avoid anything related to Epstein at all costs, which is pretty infuriating with everyone who isn't implicated in the Epstein files, which is almost everyone except for the rich and powerful. And it's even gotten to the extent where certain members of Congress, mostly Democratic members, have made headway. They've been able to get access to certain documents, certain financial records. I've been following the financial records of Jeffrey Epstein that the Treasury holds, and they were finally able to give these records to an oversight committee in Congress, the House Oversight Committee. Just hours after the House received them, Speaker Johnson shut down the House, told everyone to go home, and left town, stopping that investigation in its tracks until the House reopens, and also denying an elected member of Congress their seat. Adelita Grijalva in Arizona, she was elected in mid-September in a special election. And because the House left, they have not seated her. And she, one, is duly elected, and two, is a pivotal vote in releasing some of these records to the public.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We have not discussed that at all. That since she won that special election in Arizona, that Speaker Johnson has refused to, have her sworn in. She would represent the 218th vote for a discharge petition to release the Epstein files. And again, if this were a Republican winning a special election, you would not see this kind of a delay. Speaking of delays, we talked a little bit ago about Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy talking about how air travel is probably going to start to see some delays. Air traffic controllers, TSA workers, they're not getting paid. They're still expected to work. It was those mounting air delays that actually put pressure on Trump to, end the government shutdown from back in 2018. I have a feeling the chatter is the same out there this time around, that it might be the real impact of travel delays that helps force the hand of people in Washington.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, air traffic controllers, people who are federally required to be on their job, are in one of the most stressful positions that you can have. It's a really, it's a tough job. It's a lot of stress. It's hard when you're getting paid. But when you add on to that the fact that people in a couple weeks aren't going to get their paycheck, they're going to have to choose what bills they can pay. They may have to skip on meals. I mean, I know me personally, I can only last so long without a paycheck. I think that kind of goes across the board. And when people in these stressful positions who control our travel are going to hit that point is right around the holidays. Thanksgiving's just around the corner, and with them out of their job or having to take sick days or take time off, that's going to severely reduce everyone's ability to travel. So, people aren't going to get home to see their families. Military aren't going to be able to travel back as easily. It's just going to kind of be a mess.
It is, but the shutdown does give Cam Stevenson more time to catch up on his Bad Bunny and Taylor Swift listening. And in between all of that, he writes below the Beltway. Head over to CourierNewsroom.com or Beltway.news to learn more. Cam, always appreciate the weekly updates. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Pat. Enjoy Texas.
Thank you very much. Trying to do just that. And we'll be talking tomorrow in our homeroom segment about Texas education and the explosive growth of taxpayer-supported vouchers. Cam and I have talked about that previously from an Arizona standpoint and how to stem that before it blows up the Wisconsin state budget as well. All right, Dan Shafer coming up in about 15 minutes here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're up north. I'm not. All right, we are good. Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, anytime. It's fun.
All
Hope
right.
I'm not too wordy on there.
Nope, absolutely not. Dead set perfect. So always appreciate it. All right, have fun. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks. See ya.
See you. The Up North News Daily newsletter this week has an emphasis on Banned Books Week and some of the virtual book clubs that are out there that put an emphasis on reading the kinds of things that other people don't think you should have the right to read. So to learn about that and everything that Ellie Bordeaux is covering for us, head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe in the top banner and get on board that newsletter. The Milwaukee Brewers Chicago Cubs Game 3 of the National League Division Series moves to Wrigley Field, and that game will be held tomorrow afternoon. First pitch a little after 4 o'clock, so the pregame will be at 3:30 on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. So if you're in those areas, tune in to your local favorite civic media station and listen on the radio instead of those national broadcasters who, give the word generic a bad name, frankly, for the way that they've been covering things here so far. And if you're following Badger football, keep in mind that the Civic Media Radio Network has some stations carrying the Badger football team, and they will be in Iowa this coming Saturday. Late game coverage begins at 4 p.m. on some stations where you can follow along. And then the Packers are back in action coming up on Sunday night. And Parker, we've gone so long without having to focus on the Packers. I didn't even put in front of me who we're playing next Sunday afternoon.
Who dey? The Bengals.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Bengals are a very easy team to forget.
They blend in with those tiger stripes, you know.
Well,
you can't see them.
When was the last time you thought of the Cincinnati Bengals as a massive Super Bowl threat?
Pretty recently.
Well, if you're
Joe
in the
Burrow.
AFC,
Well, okay, yeah, I'll give you that with Mahomes and all that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Cincinnati coming up, and again, that's a late start. 3:25 is the kickoff. So pregame would be, he said, quickly looking for his notes that Luke Mathers gives us every single day. And so you'd think I'd have that right at my fingertips. But no, instead, it is a 1 o'clock pregame start on Sunday for the Packers at Cincinnati to take on the Bengals.
It's been a while since we've had more than like 2 noon games in a row. I think we've
Yes.
had 1 this year.
Well, that is one of the side effects of being a good team. There's some teams you never hear of, and they play every Sunday at noon. And the college team plays every Saturday at 11 because that's just where you are in Genericville. But we get the primetime games. We get the reasons why we sound a little punchy sometimes in the morning because people like Parker stayed up for the entire Brewers game last night. The entire thing. Even when the game was well in hand.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know.
Yep.
I worry about things.
You do worry. You spend a lot of time worrying about this stuff. Did you catch then, because we had to wait on the TV networks, we had to wait for the Phillies-Dodgers game to finish. So were you watching that as it wrapped up, as the Phillies tried to come back in the bottom of the ninth?
I switched over. So I saw, I think I saw first pitch of the Brewer game.
Okay.
So I don't remember what the Phillies had already scored.
They were down 4-1 heading into the bottom of the ninth. They brought in this relief pitcher, Blake Trinan, who just frankly does not have a good reputation. And yeah, he promptly, I think it was a walk, a hit, and a home run or something like that, or a walk and a home run. Anyway, they scored and brought it to 4-3, and were threatening in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
But instead, the Dodgers go up 2-0 in that series. So if these things hold, it would be the Brewers versus the Dodgers in the National League Championship Series. And again, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here. I'm just saying if current trends hold, we get to do deja vu for 2018 all over again. Hopefully with a better outcome.
Hopefully with a better Game 7.
Hopefully with a much better clinching game is what we'd really like to see this time around in that. So again, first things first, we got to take care of the Cubs tomorrow in Wrigley. And so catch that game on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. When Dan Shafer's here, we'll be talking about several different things that are happening at the state capitol. So one more thing out of DC that we didn't have enough time to cover with Cam Stevenson just now, and that would be about the Trump trade war and the bailouts that apparently are looming out there. The story in the New York Times begins this way. It says, punishing Chinese tariffs that prompt painful retaliation. American farmers on the brink of bankruptcy. A multi-billion-dollar bailout to keep farmers afloat. It's 2018 all over again. See, it's not just the Brewers and the Dodgers. It's the Trump shutdown. It's 2018 all over again as the Trump administration prepares to address the same policy crisis that it faced 7 years ago. I would edit that to say that it created 7 years ago, when Trump, who imposed stiff tariffs on Chinese imports, had to shield American farmers from the fallout of his trade war. And of course, that did happen because with China not buying U.S. farm products, farmers did not have revenue coming in and faced potential bankruptcy. That last time around, the bailout totaled just about $20 billion. This time around, Republican lawmakers are estimating that farmers could need as much as $50 billion in economic support. Apparently, that big of a price tag hasn't gotten to the president yet, because in this New York Times article, when asked about it, all Trump said at the White House yesterday was, quote, "I'm going to do some farm stuff this week." So we'll see what exactly that farm stuff turns out to be. But, American farmers feed the world. They feed the world because of their exports. But those exports have to have a market. We're not doing it all out of charity. And somebody has taken those markets away. And that is going to be leading to the need for, apparently, this bailout that's going to blow the national debt even higher. So that's the some stuff we're expecting to see from the president. We'll monitor when it comes out and what the details are and pass that along here. But first, of course, we've got to talk about what's happening out in Madison and across the Wisconsin political scene. And for that, we have Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area and Civic Media's political editor coming up next. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Hello, Mr. Shafer. How are you?
Mr. Kreitlow, doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Sorry I did not respond to you in a timely fashion, but
all good.
As usual, I figure you have a better handle on where we're going than I am. So,
oh, I don't know about that.
Mine is a flight of ideas. So very often here, and I was just looking back at the political chat tab, but because I know, yep, there's Ron Johnson. I hadn't seen the David Crowley thing. And let's see, what else did I have in here? Yep, you had all of that. I guess we're in pretty good shape here. Okay. Oh, did you lose it, Parker? Are they hanging up on you again? You sure they don't call John and Gordy?
I think they're trying to call John and Gordy. I don't know what's going on.
During the 8 o'clock hour, so who knows?
It's 2 today.
Okay.
I don't know what the deal is.
We'll go back to soliciting those phone calls, and they'll come pouring in one of these days. Just you wait and see. So.
And they'll actually wait.
All right. I will be back in just a bit.
30 seconds till we're back.
All right, this is first and foremost a radio show, and we appreciate everybody who listens across the Civic Media Radio Network. But of course, you can catch us as a podcast. Head over to Spotify and follow the show, or Apple, wherever you get your podcast. But we are also a video product, at least for folks who watch us on YouTube or Facebook, and that would include people like Tony, who sends in a note on YouTube. Pat, why did you move the logo to the top left? It covers your face in the 3-person view. And he's absolutely right. I moved that the other day and I forgot to move it back. So for the video audience, I'm going to press this little button here and boom, there it is.
Whoa.
Back where I know. Did that scare you a little bit? I mean,
A little bit. I didn't know.
yeah.
Oh, move fast.
The magic of computers and video and everything. But what say we get back to making this a radio show? And Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area and Civic Media's political editor joins us now. Dan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pat. Doing well. Always wonderful to join you here on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. Also, feeling good today after a Brewers win.
You have to be. Absolutely. I mean, I noted that on Saturday, we went down by a home run in the top of the first, and Sherry said to me, don't worry. They always feel like they have to come back from behind. They have to be chasing something. Last night, 3-run home run in the top of the first. And again, Sherry's like, not worried. They need to chase something. Sure enough, they did. They chased it down with a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first inning from Andrew Vaughn. It only got more exciting from there. It was great to see Jackson Chourio not be as banged up as we all feared that he would be. So it was
just not banged up, delivering that 3-run homer to dead center. That was incredible.
Which he didn't wait too late to do. He did it where I could go to bed at a decent hour and go, all right, we're good. If we screw this up, I don't want to see it. So I would be asleep and just looking at my phone at 4 a.m. It was nice to look at my phone at 4 a.m. and see that everything held just fine. So we've got game 3 and the potential for a sweep tomorrow afternoon at Wrigley Field. And I'll say again, Dan, I do not get tired of the cutaways to Craig Counsell in the dugout.
Oh, those are real fun, aren't they? They are real fun.
They are nice. Look, before we get to the politics as well, you are also the chief Bucks fan of the Civic Media Radio Network, and the exhibition season starting here?
Yeah, they had their first preseason game last night.
It was last night. All right.
Yeah. So I didn't catch that one because I was a little focused on the Brewers. But
yes.
They had their first game against Miami last night. So we are not far away from Bucks basketball. It always creeps up on you because October is such a busy sports month with the baseball playoffs, with NFL, football, college football, everything else. Like all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, we've got basketball in a couple of weeks here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for some people, I've seen so many season opener NBA commercials over the past week, and at every one of them, I kind of have the same feeling like, yeah, I'll catch you in March. Okay, when March Madness hits, but fans like you, they're there all the time, and they need you. God love you for it, because those are the ones where when they miss the playoffs by like one game, you'll be the one that points to a game in October and go, see, that's where you messed up.
That's right. If I'll be complaining about that one loss in Charlotte in November or whatever it is.
Exactly. Well, turning to politics here, I opened up the show early this morning talking about 3 different instances where they fall under the umbrella of people attacking free and fair elections in this country. You have a group of 8 Republicans in the state assembly introducing a new bill that would get rid of absentee ballot drop boxes, just get rid of the drop boxes altogether. And they were echoing some of the same, mistaken talking points of Donald Trump. You have a Waukesha County judge that's telling the Wisconsin Elections Commission they have to go through this massive change to check citizenship status on 3.8 million voters. And you have Ron Johnson whining that he's discovered that the FBI was looking at his phone records in and around the time that he was trying to undermine the 2000 election. And Dan, I throw all three of those at you to take your pick. But again, just to put the umbrella out there, that it still strikes me as so odd that there is a political party, a political class in this country that wants to make it harder to vote. I guess because they can't win on their ideas, but it just, I just can't believe the way they just keep coming back and attacking elections.
Well, yeah, you're right to point that out. And when you zoom out and you see that all of these different things that Republicans are doing to attack legal voting, to limit legal voting, this is just not a normal practice from a mainstream political party in a democracy. We should want more people participating in the process. We should want more people to have different options for voting. I think a big reason to have ballot drop boxes is so people who, might people with disabilities, older folks, just give more options for people to be able to participate in the democratic process. And I think so much of what Republicans have done on this over the years have just really been driven by conspiracy and even going back to, the voter ID push from a decade ago. Like that might be a little bit more common practice now, but it was never rooted in any actual data saying that there was anything nefarious going on with elections. Same thing with drop boxes now. Same thing with all of the nonsense about finding undocumented immigrants on the voter rolls or what have you. So much of this is just absolute nonsense. But it has really been a cornerstone policy for the Republican Party in so many different ways, and we're seeing that play out over and over again. And I think in Wisconsin, we talked I think it was last week, or we've talked on various shows across the Civic Media Network about these pushes from in part from State Representative Scott Krug, who was part of the elections committee to find some sort of pathway forward to allow for the early count for absentee ballots to be counted in time, and also to have some sort of measures on drop boxes. I didn't really agree with what he was doing, but then you have the rest of his caucus coming out and not just saying that we should add different security measures to drop boxes or what have you that he proposed. They're saying, yeah, we just want to get rid of these entirely. And I guess that's the challenge if you're a Republican wanting to get things done on election matters these days. You have to deal with this wing of your party that has been kind of overtaken by these election integrity conspiracy theorists.
Yes, and to do that, you have to keep in mind that there was before Trump and after Trump. Now, after Trump is where you get the Dropbox issue. Prior to Trump using that as a crutch to protest the election results of 2020, Republicans, as much as Democrats, were supportive of drop boxes and of mail-in absentee voting. Before Trump, their main boogeyman was voter ID. And now you've got this judge in Waukesha County kind of reinforcing this notion that we need to check citizenship status. Again, even though there is no information, no evidence of any kind of massive voting by undocumented immigrants, because why would they risk deportation, for getting caught? So in my mind, and this is simply my opinion, that this is very thinly veiled, racial profiling that you want. If you want voter ID, if you're all antsy to check citizen status when there is no problem with it. So, that was the before Trump status. Now you've got the after Trump where we're buying into the drop boxes. And then the part that's right there in the juicy middle, the 2020 attempt to undermine the election, is where you've got Ron Johnson now saying, I was being surveilled for being a Republican. No, you weren't. You were being surveilled because you were entertaining every kind of conspiracy theory. And as it turns out, you were this close to being a mule for fake electors' ballots. If only Mike Pence had gone along with the thing. All three are disingenuous to some degree or another, Dan. There's just nothing. There's no there.
You're absolutely right. And I think the lack of accountability about 2020, about coming after the folks who fueled the insurrection and tried to overturn the election, the lack of accountability for that is I still think is opening doors for many of these same Republicans to fuel these types of this type of nonsense. It very much is fueling what Ron Johnson is going after right now. But I think there's another aspect of this that is a little bit unexplored, which is that, as we saw in the last election, the low propensity voters, so people who don't necessarily vote in every election, might not vote in the midterms or local elections and what have you, might only vote in the presidential election, those voters swung really significantly towards Trump in the last election. So Republicans are now, for so long it was Democrats who had done better with these lower propensity voters, and it was all about trying to drive turnout and get more people to the polls, because if you get more people to the polls, typically they would vote Democratic. Well, now that has shifted. So I do wonder if some of these attacks on legal voting, these limits on legal voting, are going to have a detrimental impact on Republicans, on their own voters, because you're going to have people in situations who, might not be registered, might not have the right voter ID, might not have the right documents to get in place to vote in time. And these people who might not vote in every election, might only show up for certain things, they might not have the same opportunity to show up and vote if you're continuing to limit legal options for people as well. I think some of the high turnout that we saw, connected to drop boxes, connected to having many different options to vote, that allowed more people to vote, and that many of those people did vote Republican. And so I think it's also a misunderstanding. And I think, a decade ago when Republicans were going after various things to try and limit legal voting, Republicans were winning those lower turnout elections. Now Democrats are dominating in those lower turnout elections. And so I think Republicans might see some results from this and give themselves some pause and say, hey, wait a minute, we are blocking our own voters from going to the polls here by doing these limitations on legal voting. And so I think that's a factor to consider that we don't always talk about as much, because I do think it matters with this political realignment that we're seeing.
Yeah, we're talking to Dan Shafer, Civic Media's political editor, founder of the Recombobulation Area. You can get his newsletter by signing up at therecombobulationarea.news. It just seems, Dan, that for a party that used to always love to talk about getting rid of red tape, we always heard the term red tape or bureaucracy or whatever you want to call it, over regulation. But it appears that they have now learned to, become the purveyors of that. In other words, we're not talking about Medicaid cuts so much as you're putting all this extra red tape in front of people so that they're less likely to see if they qualify for Medicaid. Similarly, whether it's voter ID or having to put 24-hour webcams on a Dropbox and stream it through a municipal website. Again, they're not saying, some are saying get rid of them entirely, but a lot of them are just figuring out, how do you put these barriers in place so that people don't do it? And we go, we didn't cut it. We're trying to keep things, only the people who belong there, when it's really, again, disingenuous to claim that.
You're right. They have really kind of wanted to bolster they always talk about going after the administrative state. Republicans will talk about, like you talked about the red tape, they talk about going after the administrative state and wanting to gut that. Well, but they're doing the opposite and creating administrative burdens for whether it's Medicaid, whether it's SNAP, whether it's the Affordable Care Act, creating all sorts of extra burdens, extra hurdles for people to go over, so that only people who, I guess, are good at paperwork are going to be getting health benefits or getting food assistance or whatever it might be. And I think, we're seeing the same thing with elections. You're just creating extra hurdles for people. And, we should really be working to go in the opposite direction. I think, Democrats should be putting out election packages of their own that makes it easier for people to vote, makes automatic voter registration, takes, different steps to bring more people into the process. And I think that's what we need to be doing.
When we come back, we'll talk to Dan more about Tom Tiffany and scrubbing some stuff from his personal website. What's up with that for the new candidate for governor? We'll discuss that with Dan Shafer and talk about the government shutdown as well. On the other side, I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. righty. So shutdown, Tom Tiffany. What else? Who else? Oh, no, Missy Hughes got in since we last talked. So we've covered that. Why do I feel like I'm missing somebody else, like entering a race or something?
Was Lazar in when we last talked?
Oh, I don't know if she was. I know we haven't talked about it. So yeah, we can do that one as well. So those three will get us through the final segment here. So,
For sure.
All right, I'll see you in a little bit.
Or we could just talk more Brewers. I mean,
I got more over here. Trust me.
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
I can get on board.
Okay.
Watching PCA jump into a wall for a ball that was 40 feet above him was the peak Cubs.
Really funny. That was great.
I thought you were talking about he had like a little tantrum in the dugout later on too. There was a good clip of that.
Oh, that
that was good too. But that Churio's home run, he was coming to dead center and he makes this big dramatic jump at the wall. Did you see this clip going around? And it's just like 40 feet over his head.
Yep. And then he's just crumpled down there, sitting on his butt down there on the warning track. Yes.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. So, all right, just over 2 minutes.
Back in 30 seconds.
Back now with Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area, and to correct the record from the last segment, Tony puts up on YouTube, are you trying to start a fight with Luke about who is the bigger Bucks fan? No, I'm not trying to start a fight like that at all. It's clear that it's Dan. There's really nothing to fight about. But if Luke wants to, I mean, Luke wears the biggest Bucks cap that I've ever seen with that bill, that you can land a Harrier jet on top of. But I mean, he is a fan, Dan. He's just not a Dan Shafer level fan, I would argue.
Maybe if you lived in Milwaukee, it would be different.
Oh,
I think you got to live in Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, there we go. Residency clause. I like that.
That's right.
All right, Mathers, game on. We're talking to Dan Shafer about not just fandom, but things that are happening in the political realm as well. We never talk about appeals court judge races in the state. But you're going to have to get used to that because we've got one who's retiring, Lisa Neubauer, former candidate for state Supreme Court. We've got Maria Lazar, who is running for Supreme Court as a conservative. You have Chris Taylor, appeals court judge, running, former Democratic Assembly rep, so running from the liberal end of things. And frankly, Dan, if you think state Supreme Court races have gotten political, and they most certainly have, then it doesn't take much to predict that, yeah, we've got a big state Supreme Court race in April of next year, but our state appeals court races are getting increasingly political. I would point to Maria Lazar, who knocked off an incumbent when she ran for appeals court funded by some very, high dollar right wing groups.
That's right. And now she's running for Wisconsin Supreme Court, and she's kind of using this language where she's saying, she wants to be nonpartisan, wants to, doesn't want to bring an ideological bent to the court or anything like that. But it's just like one look at her background in any capacity. She was part of the Walker team. It's Department of Justice. She was, ran this campaign that she did a couple of years ago. So why try to run a campaign for state Supreme Court that is completely different from everything that's been in your record as a judge so far? But I think, we've seen some interesting, she launched her campaign last week. And I think we're already seeing, some of the movement from that as well. The Wisconsin Democratic Party officially endorsed Chris Taylor in a press release yesterday. So that's obviously going to, kind of mirror what we've seen in the last couple state Supreme Court elections, where the state Democratic Party really gets behind a certain candidate, as we saw with Janet Protasewicz in 2023, as we saw with Susan Crawford earlier this year. And now it looks like we're going to be seeing a similar playbook unfold here with Chris Taylor too. So if it is Chris Taylor against Maria Lazar, considering that Taylor has a big war chest behind her with the fundraising that she's been able to do since she entered the race, I believe it was May or June after the April spring election, and then Lazar just announcing now after Rebecca Bradley kind of surprised some folks by saying that she was not going to run for another 10-year term. I think you got to think the liberal candidate here is the favorite going into that spring election next year.
Well, especially when you consider that the progressive or the Democratic candidate has won like 15 out of the last 18 statewide elections, which takes me to your point about Judge Lazar essentially trying to claim to be the independent. Why don't you just run on who you are and what you have historically been? That takes us to the Dan Bice story this morning out of the Journal-Sentinel about Congressman and former state Senator Tom Tiffany from up in the Minocqua area, essentially scrubbing his personal website, tomtiffany.com, from references about, his fight against women's reproductive health rights, his, stances on gun safety and all sorts of other things. And you saw him try to have it, both ways on the abortion issue in terms of an abortion ban when questioned when he first got into this race for governor. So I guess for me, Dan, maybe for you as well, it's not the world's biggest surprise that at the moment conservatives are not in a hurry to show, the extreme sides of their positions when they're running for statewide office.
Oh, that's certainly part of it, but maybe Tom Tiffany just wants a little bit of a digital reset, doesn't want any, maybe he's scrubbing all of his different social media platforms from anything in the past. Maybe he needed to learn something from what happened with Bill Berrien in his campaign as well. So maybe he's just trying to make sure everything's taken care of and cleaned up before he really, becomes emerges as the front runner in this race, which it does seem like that's what's happening. We saw a poll over the weekend too that showed Tiffany way out front of the Republican field, even with some, people who are have some statewide recognition like Tim Michaels and Eric Hovde also in the poll. But I think this is just what campaigns do now. They've got to make sure all of their different websites are cleaned up, and especially with Tiffany, like he's not going to be able to hide his record on these types of things, on abortion rights, on gun rights, on these issues that a number of Wisconsin Republicans during their time in the state Senate in state assembly have been on the wrong side of a lot of 80-20 issues under Robin Voss's leadership, under the legislative Republican leadership over the past few years. So, he's not going to be able to run from that, but, maybe his campaign has things a little bit more in order than Mr. Berrien's did.
I guess maybe start closer to the center before you make that drift off to the right. And then finally, in terms of the government shutdown, it seems like the most visible, the most vocal part of it is Congressman Mark Pocan, who will be on this show on Thursday morning and going to do some more events in Congressman Derek Van Orden's 3rd district, since Congressman Van Orden isn't doing those kinds of things. Is there anything else that's topping that in terms of, talking about the shutdown, or is that really kind of the proxy for what's happening in D.C.?
I think it is, and I think this issue over the Affordable Care Act tax credits, I'm starting to see some real traction with this from Democrats here. I think they have a winning issue on this. That the polling is on their side. I even saw Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet something yesterday in favor of the ACA tax credits. And I think if you've got even Republican members saying like, hey, this is going to be really bad for people in my district, might be worth holding out to get a win here.
Might be.
And then if Republicans go the other way, if they don't approve them, then, well, you've got an issue to run on.
That's right. Sign up for Dan's newsletter at therecombobulationarea.news. And of course, all he does is political editor for Civic Media at civicmedia.us. Dan, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Pat. Be well.
All right. And thanks to all of you for joining us here today as well. We will be talking about what we can learn from here in Texas about the rapid explosive growth of the voucher school program and how to prevent that kind of disaster in Wisconsin. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.